A massive crowd has gathered in the capital for some kind of royal spectacle. Turns out they are all here to see the first prince of the Arkan Kingdom, Noel. And this official with the most punchable face I have ever seen announces his punishment is set. Our boy Noel is on his knees, sentenced to be banished from the entire kingdom. They are calling it the disposal of garbage, which is just a asterisk little asterisk on the nose, guys. Meanwhile, a girl in a pirate getup watches from a raft, complete with a pet turtle. Noel tries to protest, his hands bound tightly behind his back. He is completely freaking out, yelling that there has been some kind of misunderstanding. But a guard's boot shuts him up fast because due process is for losers, apparently. This smarmy official leans in, calling him Former Highness with maximum condescension. This minister, Shred, tells him to pipe down with a look that just screams, "I framed you." Shred then lays it out, claiming Noel is guilty of 2 major crimes, and for the first charge he gives our boy a condescending little forehead poke. This crime, he declares, is simply possessing his unique skill. Apparently these skills are special powers granted by the heavens to a select few, but Noel's specific skill is seen as creepy and unsettling by everyone around him. His power is called Recycle, which only works on literal garbage and broken junk. Shred calls it a forbidden art that stains the kingdom. Wow, real subtle with the insults. Our boy knows this already, admitting that his power is the reason he is so despised, which is exactly why he has always tried his best to never even use the damn thing. Noel desperately argues his research was for the good of the kingdom's future, because he saw the growing pollution from all the garbage threatening their very way of life, and that is why he was trying to find a way to effectively use the overflowing trash. For a hot second, the crowd actually seems to be listening, maybe even believing him, but a regal-looking guy watching from a balcony above just orders everyone to be silent. He tells Shred not to let Noel's sophistry sway the people, cannot have that. Shred immediately bows to this Highness Giustra, all too happy to get back on script. This Giustra, who looks like he is barely tolerating this whole affair, is revealed to be the second prince, and he declares everything his brother said is a total lie. He claims he saw the whole incident go down with his own 2 eyes, this incident being Noel supposedly using his forbidden skill to try and kill a girl named Rose. Our boy is completely blindsided, trying to get a word in to defend himself. But Shred just grandstands, officially announcing the 2 great crimes, having a creepy skill and attempted murder. That second charge flips the crowd instantly, they are now screaming for his head. With a smug look, Giustra says this proves the recycle skill is a curse and demands immediate punishment. Before Noel can even process the betrayal, the guards are already grabbing him. He struggles, screaming that it is all a misunderstanding and that he is innocent. But his pleas are cut short by a rock to the head, thrown from the angry crowd. This mob goes absolutely wild, screaming for the great sinner to get out of the kingdom, and our boy just looks broken, accepting his fate as the chance to banish him echo everywhere. And so the guards march Noel through the jeering crowd to begin his official banishment. They take him on a long, lonely walk down the coast to a remote fortress by the sea. His final destination is a dinky log raft in an ocean literally filled with garbage, real classy, guys. Giustra, ever the supportive brother, steps forward to give one last condescending farewell. He claims this whole charade is an act of mercy, considering Noel's former royal status. As a parting gift, he grants his brother ownership of this entire sea of trash to rule over. Even the guards are cracking up, mocking him about his new kingdom of garbage. Shred butters up Giustra, saying his compassion was a great show for the soldiers. With a truly punchable grin, Giustra just soaks it all in, loving every second of his victory. Noel is left to drift alone in the filth, surrounded by floating junk and an actual skull. Watching from the shore, the 2 villains smugly agree he will not survive long out there anyway. This tiny raft is pushed further out to sea, carrying our boy away from everything he has ever known. Battered and broken, Noel desperately tries to figure out how it all went so wrong. His mind flashes back to the incident, remembering he was just trying to use his skill for something useful. We see him at his old stomping grounds, the kingdom's massive 5th waste disposal site. He'd been working on a project, carefully piecing together some broken materials with intense focus. Proudly, he holds up his finished creation, a helmet made entirely from recycled junk. He pops it on his head to test it out, completely unaware that someone is watching him. But a voice calls out, "Your Highness," and he turns in surprise to see a young girl approaching. It is Rose, the Prime Minister's daughter, the very same girl he was just accused of trying to murder. Rose says she knew she'd find him here, looking way too pleased with herself. Noel, still rocking his DIY helmet, is just confused about why she is at a literal dump. She immediately gets ticked off, basically asking, "What do you mean, why am I here?" Turns out he skipped an important study session, so she had to track him down herself. The dedication is real. She glances at his setup and asks if he is building another one of his weird things. Zero faith in our boy. He proudly explains his helmet has a built-in magic transmitter ready to show off his big brain invention. With it, he can send commands to a levitation device he attached to a beat-up old broom. This broom suddenly floats up, powered by a magical gizmo he slapped on top. It then starts spinning like a possessed Roomba, sweeping up the lighter trash as he watches with glee. But he admits it has its limits, struggling to lift anything heavier than a barrel. Rose just covers her mouth, trying so hard not to laugh at his sad little invention. He calls out to her as she just walks past him, heading straight for the biggest pile of junk. She raises a hand, showing off a fancy ring, and starts chanting some kind of spell. Suddenly, a massive gust of wind starts swirling around her, gathering power, and she unleashes a spell called Divine Squall, which is way more impressive than a flying broom. Noel is completely floored, recognizing she is using high-level wind magic. Her spell effortlessly lifts all the heavy garbage, piling it up in seconds. With a smug look, she says she can clean up without needing to use any junk at all. She basically tells him that using actual magic is just way more efficient, thanks for playing, and Noel can only stare in awe, admitting that the Prime Minister's daughter is just built different. Rose just waves a hand, saying this is child's play and she could even teach him if he wants. Noel can only scratch his head, admitting that yeah, magic is definitely the more convenient option. But then he turns, holding his DIY helmet, and says that is not what he is aiming for at all. This completely throws Rose for a loop, who just stares at him like he has grown a second head. She demands to know what a prince could possibly be seeking that is more important than magic. His mind flashes back to all the nobles who have mocked him for his useless and filthy skill. And Rose keeps pushing, asking what matters more than a royal's dignity and overwhelming power. Noel's expression gets dead serious because he is about to drop a major truth bomb. He admits he has never really had a chance to properly explain himself to anyone before. Turning to face her, he finally decides to lay out his grand, garbage-fueled vision. He explains that the kingdom's endless wars led to mass-producing tons of magical weapons. Everyone was constantly chasing the next big thing, the stronger sword, the better armor. But once that gear got old or broken, it was just unceremoniously thrown away, which has resulted in these massive, ever-growing mountains of magical junk piling up. This stuff does not decompose, and it is actively poisoning the land and killing wildlife. He remembers trying to warn the royal court, but the ministers only cared about immediate profit, not the future. So he came to the dump himself, determined to find a solution no one else would. Looking at his reflection, he says that even discarded things can have new purpose and potential. With total resolve, he vows to protect the land his mother loved, even if the whole kingdom despises him for it. And his big damn hero speech completely short-circuits Rose, leaving her a blushing, flustered mess. Rose immediately tries to walk it back, insisting she totally does not think he is cool or anything. Noel, holding his helmet, just asks if she said something. Romance is clearly not his strong suit, but his expression suddenly shifts from confusion to absolute terror. He screams at Rose to get out of the way, but she is still just standing there, confused, because her big wind spell just caused a literal garbage avalanche right behind her. She finally turns around and lets out a perfectly timed shriek of horror. Noel realizes her show-off magic is what destabilized the entire junk pile. He makes a desperate dash towards her, knowing there is no way he will make it in time. Even his little flying broombot gets completely obliterated by the wave of scrap metal. With no other options, he decides to use his forbidden skill to try and control the junk itself. He is still sprinting, trying to at least shield her from the worst of it. This kid even throws a broken shield, as if that is going to stop a literal mountain of trash. Reaching out a hand, he activates Recycle, pouring all his focus into the collapsing pile. His eyes widen as the power takes hold, not even sure what is about to happen. Suddenly, pieces of junk start to levitate, rearranging themselves into something enormous. A massive hand made of pure scrap metal bursts out of the garbage, because of course it does. And from the trash rises a full-blown junk golem, leaving both of them completely speechless. This towering behemoth made of barrels and broken armor looms over a terrified Noel. Its massive arm swings down not to attack but to shield them from the rest of the debris. Rose can only watch as the golem takes the full impact of the avalanche, saving them both. This dust settles, revealing the junk golem took the entire hit, creating a safe zone in the chaos. Noel is completely gassed, barely able to stand after pulling off that insane stunt. He looks at his creation, which has now crumbled back into a pile, just glad he managed to stop the slide. But then he whips around with a jolt, suddenly remembering why he did it in the first place. He scrambles over to Rose, who is out cold on the ground, frantically calling her name. As he reaches for her, she starts to stir with a groan, thank God. A wave of pure relief washes over his face, realizing she is actually alive. Just then, he hears a voice call out, wondering who else could be out here. And of course, it is his brother Giustra with a couple of guards, arriving at the most perfect time imaginable. This second prince's eyes immediately lock onto the unconscious Rose lying in the wreckage. Then he sees the massive, vaguely threatening pile of scrap that used to be the golem. Giustra's face contorts in pure fury as he demands to know what the hell just happened. Noel just looks up at him, still kneeling by Rose, about to explain the whole mess. And the flashback ends, snapping back to Noel remembering he was just trying to save the kingdom's future. He recalls the smug faces of his brother in shred, realizing they never believed him for a second. All he can think about is how he failed to protect a single girl, at least in everyone else's eyes. His face twists into a mask of pure, unadulterated rage at the betrayal. He struggles against his bonds, wishing he had the power to change anything. This kid screams in his mind that if only he were stronger, none of this would have happened. And as he clenches his fists, Rose's fancy ring slips from his grasp and lands right in front of him. Noel's eyes snap wide, staring in disbelief at the ring that just fell from his hands. He looks at his own palms, completely baffled, wondering if his skill just activated on its own. This ring is now levitating, and from it, a strange, fibrous material starts to materialize. In his hand is a bundle of raw hemp, meaning his skill somehow deconstructed an object into its base components. He examines the ring, admitting to himself that his own power is still a complete mystery. His mind flashes back to his mother warning him as a child to never use his skill because people feared it. But floating out here in the middle of nowhere, he realizes there is no one left to judge him anymore. Deciding he'd rather die trying than just waste away, he focuses his will on the ring's magic. With a new sense of purpose, he resolves to finally test the true potential of his recycle ability. A broken wooden crate floats by, presenting the perfect target for his first real experiment. He channels his power through the ring, taking aim at the piece of debris bobbing in the water. Focusing his intent, he decides to see if he can consciously deconstruct the object this time. A flicker of his old inventor's spirit returns, a genuine smile on his face as he gets ready to try. He thrusts his hand forward, shouting the name of his skill. Recycle, this time with total control. This broken crate instantly breaks apart, reforming into a neat stack of pristine wooden planks. Our boy holds up the results, absolutely floored that he just turned worthless junk into quality lumber. His mind immediately starts racing on how to use it, and then a critical memory clicks into place. He remembers the avalanche when he subconsciously assembled scrap metal into a massive golem to save Rose. This penny drops, his skill is not just deconstruction, it is also reconstruction. He can build things. Looking out at the endless sea of trash, his despair turns to determination. This is not a prison, it is a workshop. He figures he will need an oar to navigate this endless sea of garbage, so he lays a hand on his freshly made lumber, the magic ring already glowing. In his mind, he pictures the exact shape he needs, focusing all his intent on the design. With another shout of recycle, he unleashes his power on the stack of wood. And a perfectly formed oar just materializes right there on his makeshift raft. Our boy holds it up, absolutely beaming. He is officially a magical craftsman now. He is stunned by the quality, admitting he has zero clue how to actually build one himself. It dawns on him that his skill does not need blueprints. It is practically a divine cheat code. His gears are turning fast, realizing he can probably make just about anything he can imagine. For a second, he wonders if his brother Giustra will just let him build a new life out here. But he quickly dismisses the thought, deciding that is a worry for another time. He recalls his brother's parting words, sarcastically granting him ownership of this trash sea. A flicker of pure defiance crosses Noel's face as he processes that final insult. Standing tall on his raft, he realizes if this is his domain, he can do whatever he wants. He grips the ring, fully accepting the challenge. All right, Giustra, you are on. Looking out at his new kingdom of junk, he vows to build something truly spectacular. His ultimate goal is now set in stone. He is going to create his own floating city. But this grand, world-changing vision is suddenly cut short by a wave of dizziness. As Noel's eyes flutter open, he is completely dazed, groggily asking where he is. He feels the rope still cutting into him, realizing that whole escape was just in his head. He is still tied to the raft, slowly processing the fact that yep, he is somehow still breathing. But then the horrible truth dawns on him, that whole epic escape plan was just a fever dream. Back in reality, he is just chilling on his raft, trying to ignore the whole exiled for life thing. Turns out he got so absorbed in practicing his recycle skill that he lost track of everything else. A flicker of his old self returns, that intense focus he gets when he is about to build something. This also explains why he completely missed the giant definitely going to kill him storm brewing overhead. Thinking fast, he uses his skill to instantly reconstruct a rope out of thin air, and he is immediately thrown into a fight for his life against the raging sea, because tying himself down to the raft was the one smart move that kept him from being fish food. Once the storm finally breaks, he starts untying himself, already planning to recycle the rope. He then realizes the storm swept away literally everything he'd managed to build, all of it gone. But through the tears of frustration, his expression is nothing but pure, unyielding resolve. As he drifts aimlessly, a small island suddenly appears on the horizon, a beacon of hope. Noel frantically paddles towards it, overjoyed at the prospect of finally reaching land. With a sigh of relief, he steps onto solid ground, officially a castaway. His relief is cut short by a bizarre dome-like structure sitting right in the middle of the island. A quick survey reveals this island is more of a sandbar that will be underwater at high tide. Even so, his curiosity is completely fixated on that strange, vine-covered dome. Up close, he cannot tell if it is a weird rock formation or some kind of giant shell. Figuring there might be useful materials inside, he immediately starts trying to get it open. With a final heave, the dome door bursts open, sending dust and vines flying everywhere. A cloud of ancient dust just billows out, sending Noel into a massive coughing fit. Through the haze, he sees something moving and immediately thinks, "Oh great, a monster." Something slowly starts to peek out from the darkness inside the strange structure. And it is a tiny, yawning turtle, the most terrifying beast imaginable, clearly. This little guy explains he's been cooped up in that shell for a ridiculously long time. Noel learns this turtle has apparently been alive for over 10,000 years, which is just wild. Our boy is just completely starstruck, gushing about how incredible that is. But then the turtle asks who is talking, and Noel freezes. Did he just hear that? He just stares, completely silent, processing the fact that a turtle is speaking to him. Then the full-blown panic sets in, thinking he has finally lost his mind out here. After a moment to collect himself, he politely introduces himself to the talking reptile. This turtle introduces himself as Aspedokin, looking pretty pleased with himself. Nokel immediately suggests nicknames and they shake on it because of course they do. Aspie points out that arriving on a raft was a pretty reckless move to put it mildly, but Nokel just puffs out his chest, saying not to worry because he has got his recycle skill. This turtle has no idea what that is, so Nokel decides a demonstration is in order. He heads to the shore to gather some materials, mentioning that he is also starving. Using his skill, he breaks down some driftwood and finds a few rusty nails inside. Aspie just watches, completely baffled, as Nokel starts hoarding a pile of literal garbage. Nokel tells his new turtle friend to watch closely, holding up the ring with a confident smirk. He thrusts his hand forward, unleashing his power with a dramatic shout of recycle. Aspie's little turtle jaw just hits the sand, completely stunned by the sudden light show. This raw materials on the beach instantly start assembling into a brand new shape. And boom, Nokel's holding a perfect fishing rod, explaining his trash-to-treasure skill. He immediately casts his line, and Aspie admits that is a pretty handy power to have. This ancient turtle seems to be deep in thought, stroking his non-existent beard. Aspie then suggests making a second rod since two people can catch way more fish. Nokel gets a little awkward, pointing out that a turtle cannot exactly hold a fishing rod. But his brain grinds to a halt as he realizes something is very, very wrong, because Aspie is now glowing, telling him to just hold on for a second. A massive burst of light sends Nokel flying backwards onto the sand, and when the dust settles, a girl with a shell on her head asks if this form is more helpful. Our boy's mind completely short-circuits, his jaw unhinged at the sight of the turtle girl. Aspie immediately asks for a fishing rod, but first suggests recycling some clothes for obvious reasons. A flustered Nokel tosses over a rag, telling her to cover up before she gets sick. Putting on the dress, he casually mentions that he is a guy, by the way. Nokel just squints, says it looks fine, and hands over the second rod, deciding not to ask questions. With their gear sorted, the second line splashes into the calm ocean water. And now they are just chilling, fishing together, with Aspie admitting this quiet life is not so bad. Nokel's just gotta know how a turtle can suddenly sprout a human body, asking what Aspie's deal is. Aspie starts to explain his whole life story, which apparently goes way, way back. We flash back to when this little sandbar was a massive, thriving island with a volcano. Turns out the locals worshipped him as the god of the great earth, a pretty sweet gig. Nokel's brain sputters at the god part, and Aspie immediately gets defensive, demanding some respect. But he admits that golden age of being worshipped did not exactly last forever. As his followers lost faith and left the island, his divine power started to seriously fade. Without his magic holding it up, the entire island just sank beneath the waves. Now he feels totally useless in the modern world, calling himself nothing more than garbage. That word garbage really stings, and he clenches his fist in frustration. But Nokel gives him a massive thumbs up, calling his story absolutely incredible, much to Aspie's shock. Our boy explains that to him. Garbage is just another word for a bundle of possibilities. Aspie is genuinely touched by this ridiculously optimistic take on being washed up. With that settled, Nokel figures it is his turn to share his own sob story. His tale begins back at the massive, walled-off kingdom he used to call home. Inside, we see a fish skeleton on a plate, a sign of the royal luxury he left behind. And there is his brother Giostra being told how much more productive meetings are without Nokel. A flashback reveals Nokel constantly barging into council meetings with his garbage inventions to solve pollution. Giostra smugly declared that if Nokel loves trash so much, he should go die in it. An advisor then questions the wisdom of literally handing over the rights to the entire trash sea. Giostra just waves off the advisor's concern, smugly saying there is no need to worry about it. In his whine, he reflects that no one in the kingdom's history has ever survived that trash sea. He is probably imagining Nokel is starving right now, desperately missing the castle's fine dining. But in reality, our boy is just casually skewering a freshly caught fish for their dinner. And he takes a massive, satisfying bite, looking anything but miserable out here. He and Aspie are having an absolute blast, chowing down on their simple but delicious meal. They even caught a whole bucketful since the local fish apparently have zero survival instincts. While grilling another fish, Aspie mentions just how incredibly useful that recycle skill is. This reminds Nokel they need a better way to make fire, so he targets one of the fishing rods. With a flash, it is instantly reshaped into a perfect bow drill, ready to make some sparks. This magic part was instant, but the actual physical labor has him sweating bullets, much to Aspie's amusement. Completely exhausted, he glares at the ring, wishing he could just make a more convenient tool. He then remembers trying to build a complex distiller, which just collapsed into a useless pile of scrap. Aspie points out that while the fire is nice, they are gonna need a lot more to actually live here. That seems to give her an idea as she clenches her fist with a new sense of purpose. She stands up, announcing she has a gift for him as thanks for the delicious fish. With a confident wink, she promises to give him something incredibly convenient. Nokel just stares back, completely baffled about what a depowered turtle god could possibly offer. At that moment, a huge pile of driftwood floating in the water starts to violently break apart. And it is because Nokel is already back to work, using recycle to gather a fresh batch of materials. Nokel whips up a giant planter with his skill, asking if this is what Aspie had in mind. Aspie gives the okay and tells him to fill it up with the island's precious soil. He then reveals his old shell is basically a secret pantry left by his former worshippers. And inside is a whole garden of bizarre-looking fruits, which Noel immediately wants to eat. Aspie explains the plan is to take a seed from one of the fruits, then plant it in the bucket of soil they just prepared. Next, he has Noel haul the whole setup onto the raft, much to his confusion. Our boy is starting to look a little concerned about where this is going. He asks if they are seriously about to start a farm right now on a floating pile of logs. But Aspie just tells him to relax as his little shell hat starts to glow ominously. He strikes a pose like a backup dancer, announcing that the real show is about to begin, and with a shout he unleashes the blessing of the great earth right at the raft. This soil in the planter immediately starts to churn and bubble, and a tiny sprout just pops right out of the dirt in seconds. Noel's mind is blown, pointing at the instant plant with total disbelief. He immediately asks if this is Aspie's depowered god magic in action. Just then, Aspie's human form vanishes, leaving behind an empty dress on the sand. He is back to being a tiny turtle, admitting he is completely out of juice and reverted. So much for that dramatic entrance. Aspie explains that by putting the island's soil on the raft, he could define it as earth and bless it. He also adds that the fruits they are growing are super hydrating, solving their water problem. Aspie explains these magic fruits are basically a full-service pharmacy for preventing scurvy on their journey. Noel carefully scoops up his tiny, ancient, god-tier travel companion. Our boy is just beaming, telling Aspie how glad he is that they are a team now. For a second, the 10,000-year-old turtle looks genuinely moved by the kindness, but Aspie immediately gets flustered and tries to change the subject, clearly not used to praise. This tender moment is shattered by Aspie yelling that high tide is coming in fast. Noel immediately freaks out, shouting that he needs to gather more materials for the raft. As he starts hoarding trash, Aspie asks if he really needs all this, but Noel insists it is essential. His tiny friend then points out even more garbage, wondering what the heck the plan is. Without another word, Noel just dives back in, grabbing every single piece of driftwood in sight. After a long night of construction, they are just chilling on their upgraded raft, pointing at the stars. Come morning, the raft is looking seriously impressive, and Noel gives a well-earned thumbs up. It is not just a raft anymore, he has built a full-on deck with a mast, all from garbage. Aspie looks on, a little sadly assuming Noel is about to sail off and leave him behind. But then Noel plants a foot firmly back on the island's sand, leaving the little turtle completely baffled by this move. Assuming the worst, Aspie starts his dramatic goodbye speech, saying their time was short but sweet. He wishes the kid a safe journey, fully resigned to being abandoned on this sandbar again. Right then, Noel just plops a hand on his shell and says, "All right, Aspie, let us go." This turtle's brain just blue screens. Wait, he is not being left behind. This little turtle god immediately starts panicking, demanding to know why the heck he is being abducted. Our boy just scratches his head, explaining he figured Aspie wanted to come along for the ride. But with a heavy heart, Aspie says that unfortunately he cannot go with Noel on his journey. He was the god of this great earth, he explains, but he completely failed to protect his home. Noel just puts him on his shoulder, pointing out that is all ancient history now. This old god looks completely baffled, asking if he is really talking about his past failures. Our boy explains that as the islanders advanced, they simply outgrew their need for Aspie's magic. He then turns with a huge grin, pointing out that Aspie's powers are actually super useful for his trip. Noel looks him dead in the eye, promising he will not let him be useless anymore. Instead, he is going to recycle Aspie's power and give him a brand new purpose. And the little turtle god is just completely floored, his eyes welling up with actual tears. Aspie tries to hide his face, grumbling that he has no choice, but he is totally on board now. For the first time in ages, the wind fills the sail, ready for a new voyage. As they finally set sail, Aspie declares he will lend his divine power to this human boy. Now that they are moving, Noel gets an idea, holding his ring over a coil of rope. He figures with the raft this big, he can finally build that one thing he has been thinking about. With a familiar shout of recycle, he unleashes a massive burst of creative energy. This rope immediately twists and weaves itself into an intricate net-like structure. And boom, a perfect rope railing materializes, making the raft a whole lot safer. Aspie, now safely tied to a post, casually identifies the new creation as a hammock. Noel is absolutely loving his new hammock, finally able to sleep comfortably after ages on hard logs. He flashes back to the old raft where every wave threatened to toss him into the sea. Even on the new deck, he is surprised at just how incredibly stable their whole setup is. Aspie smugly explains his blessing of the great earth is basically a divine shock absorber for the raft. Realizing he can build without the raft tipping, Noel gets a huge burst of creative energy. But before he can start his next project, his body has a completely different idea. This guy decides to take a quick, well-deserved breakout on the open sea, and he is out like a light, peacefully swaying in his brand new garbage hammock, which immediately gives way, sending him crashing headfirst onto the deck with a yelp of pain. As he sits up dazed, Aspie frantically tries to get his attention, pointing upwards. Noel looks up to see a massive, winged silhouette blotting out the sun. A couple of huge feathers drift down onto the deck, confirming they have very unwelcome company. His face drains of all color as he realizes what he is looking at, hoping he is wrong. This camera pans up the back of a winged woman described as a winged female form. Her legs are not human at all, but massive, terrifying bird talons ready to shred. An old drawing shows this creature is a legendary beast known for attacking humans. This creature reveals herself in full glory, and the text confirms their worst fears. It is a harpy. She looks down at them with an unnerving calm, taking in her potential new victims. Noel just stares in pure terror, barely able to choke out the creature's name. Aspe asks if they are really that dangerous, and our boy admits this is his first time seeing one. Apparently, harpies are legendary for just casually wiping out entire armies of regular soldiers. They are basically considered a natural enemy to all of humanity, so this is just fantastic. With zero hesitation, she just dive bombs straight for their little garbage raft. Our boy immediately panics, realizing his recycle skill is way too slow to counter this. So he grabs the nearest junk, a pipe and a plank, muttering that he has no other choice. His brilliant plan is to just start chucking random debris at the incoming monster, yelling for it to stay back. This, of course, does absolutely nothing to slow her down in the slightest. She just gracefully weaves through the flying garbage like it is a slow-motion ballet. Noel is getting seriously frustrated since his best defense is literally throwing trash. In a moment of pure genius-level desperation, he grabs Aspe, thinking this time for sure. And he just eats the 10,000-year-old turtle god at the harpy, much to Aspe's screaming horror. With zero effort, the harpy just punts Aspe into the ocean like a soccer ball, so much for divine intervention. Noel is absolutely enraged, screaming at her for daring to kick his turtle buddy. Completely ignoring his rage, the harpy just lands gracefully on the deck right in front of him. She just stares him down with this unnervingly calm, almost bored expression. Her massive talons dig into the deck while Noel stands there armed with 2 sticks. Solid plan. He glances at his ring, the cold reality hitting him that he has absolutely no chance of winning this fight. But even knowing that, he steels himself, realizing he has no choice but to try. With a look of pure determination, he activates his recycle skill on the plank and sticks, which he transforms into a giant wooden paddle, demanding to know what she wants and insisting he has no money. This harpy completely ignores his giant paddle and just points at the hammock. Our boy is just standing there baffled, asking if she means the hammock he just made. She just stares back with this deadpan expression as if the answer is obvious. Then she lets out a huge yawn, stretching her wings and saying she wants to use it. Noel is still braced for a fight to the death, but the legendary monster just waits. His face is a perfect picture of what is even happening right now. And with zero warning, she just dives headfirst right into the rope netting. He can only stare as she gets comfy, demanding to know what is going on. At that moment, a very soggy and furious Aspe climbs back aboard, yelling about being used as a projectile. Noel immediately scoops him up, apologizing profusely and admitting he was desperate. Aspe then asks if this legendary army-destroying beast is not actually dangerous. Meanwhile, said legendary beast is just completely passed out in the hammock. She is sleeping so peacefully, looking like she does not have a single murderous thought in her head. Noel cautiously tries to get her attention, probably to ask her to leave now. Waking up, she introduces herself as Murmursig, which is quite a mouthful. He is still on guard, asking if she is sure she did not come here to attack him. But Murmursig just stretches and says she does not actually hate humans at all. Turns out, her one true passion in life is just getting a really good nap. A flashback shows she was literally kicked out of her clan for being too lazy, so she has just been wandering the skies ever since, looking for a comfy place to crash. Noel is just bawling his eyes out, completely moved by her tragic tale of being a professional napper. He wipes away the tears, telling Aspe that he totally gets it. They are both outcasts in their own way. So he formally introduces himself and Aspe, trying to make their new freeloader feel at home. Murmursig then asks where this garbage boat is even headed, and Noel admits they are just drifting. But he clarifies he has a grand ambition, to expand this raft into a full-blown floating city. Aspe's little turtle brain just short-circuits at the sheer audacity of that statement. Even the legendary beast is confused, asking if he really just said city. Noel explains that back in his kingdom, people were weirdly against reusing perfectly good trash. So his master plan is to use his ring to build a whole city from junk, just to prove a point. He's determined to show that even worthless things can be used to help people and build a nation. Murmursig just watches him, clearly struck by this kid's ridiculously ambitious dream. Our boy's conviction is absolutely unshakable. He is dead serious about this garbage city. After a moment of thought, she turns and announces that she has made up her mind. With a dramatic flourish, she declares this raft will be her new nest. Congratulations on the new roommate. Noel is just baffled, asking if she is seriously planning to move in with them. She explains that if he builds a city, she can finally nap without anyone bothering her. Her imagination immediately jumps to a luxurious canopy bed, drooling at the very thought of it. So Noel just winks, welcoming another fellow outcast to their very strange crew. He then gets down to business, asking if she has any skills to contribute to their new co-op. Before she can answer, her eyes lock onto something floating in the water nearby. With a casual flex of her talon, she crushes a coconut like it is a grape, and then offers them the freshly squeezed juice, asking if they want a drink. Noel is just stunned by this, but her attempt at delicacy goes horribly wrong, as she accidentally obliterates a wooden bowl with that same casual strength. Murmursig gets all flustered, admitting she is way better at breaking things than being gentle. Aspe points out she destroyed the only bed, but Noel just says he will make another. She asks if he is serious, and our boy confirms, except for one tiny problem. He gestures to an empty crate, remembering he threw all his building supplies at her head. To build anything new, he is gonna need wood, cloth, and rope, all currently at sea. which means they have to scour the endless ocean for more high-quality garbage to salvage. Hearing this, Murmursig gets an idea while Nokel just pats her head, telling her not to worry. She then bows her head with a determined look, completely baffling our boy, and with a massive flap of her wings, she just launches herself into the sky like a rocket. Nokel and Aspie can only watch as their new roommate flies off into the distance. A close-up on her face shows she is absolutely on a mission now. Suddenly, an axe comes flying down from the sky right towards the raft, followed by a whole table splashing down into the water, a special delivery. Turns out Murmursig is on a high-speed garbage run collecting junk for him. She swoops back around, dropping off the last of her haul with impressive speed, then lands perfectly back on deck, looking pretty pleased with her contribution. Nokel is absolutely stunned by the pile of high-quality trash she brought back in minutes. He is practically glowing, realizing this haul would have taken him half a day to gather on his own. She seems almost embarrassed, admitting her family always called her slow and useless so much for that. Without a second thought, Nokel gives her a reassuring head pat, telling her she is awesome. With a huge grin, he genuinely thanks her, saying her help was a massive time saver. He looks her right in the eye, insisting that she is absolutely not slow or useless. This praise clearly hits different. She is just blushing and soaking it all in. All fired up, Nokel immediately gets to work, ready to recycle the entire pile at once. His ring flares to life as he tries to recycle it all, but something is very wrong. This whole pile of garbage just violently backfires, sending shrapnel flying everywhere. Instead of raw materials, he has accidentally created a glowing, chaotic mess of a shack. Our boy's face is just a perfect picture of what the hell just happened. And then the whole unstable mess immediately collapses right on top of him, much to Aspie's horror. Looking at the wreckage, Murmursig admits she was worried he could not handle that much at once. A single thumbs up emerges from the debris, signaling that he is somehow still alive in there. Pinned under a plank, he is completely baffled as to why his skill just failed so spectacularly. Aspie floats over with a sad look, suggesting he might know the reason for the failure. This turtle god points out a weird bracer, explaining some of the junk was made of unidentifiable materials. Nokel dusts himself off, completely confused by the concept of garbage I do not know. Aspie stands over the mysterious items, explaining his analysis skill will figure out what they are. Aspie explains that the recycle skill works perfectly on simple, raw materials like wood and rope. This problem starts when you try to process complex, composite junk all at once. That is a recipe for failure. And the light bulb finally goes off for Nokel, who realizes why his grand creation backfired. He remembers trying to recycle a pile of magical armor before, which just broke down instead of reforming. Our boy immediately gets bummed out, thinking he has hit the limits of his power. But Aspie gives him a little pep talk, admitting even a god could not do much when he first started out. This whole point, he says, is to understand your own power to know what is truly possible. With renewed determination, Nokel realizes his first step is to identify what his skill cannot handle, which means it is time for the most exciting part of any adventure, sorting the trash. He immediately ropes in Murmursig, who is just standing there completely baffled by the concept. Now with a solid plan, Nokel holds up his ring, looking fired up for another attempt. He kneels before the sorted pile of safe junk, promising that this time it is gonna work. This ring flares to life, his mind set on one thing, building the ultimate bed for their new roommate. But as he focuses, his mind flashes to a memory, a very ornate, very familiar rocking chair. In it sits a regal-looking man, calmly reading a book in a ridiculously luxurious room. This scene shifts to this lavish room from his past, where the man looks up, calling the memory nostalgic. As a servant pours him a drink, the man mentions that this particular chair reminds him of something. This ornate goblet is then placed on the small table right beside him, and the smirking servant starts talking about His Highness Jizdra and the unpleasant garbage prince. This man in the chair, presumably Jizdra, just closes his eyes with a calm, knowing smile. This flashback cuts to two young boys, presumably Jizdra and Nokel, fighting at their mother's feet. Jizdra then holds up a book, already showing off his supposed intellectual superiority. Now an adult, he lounges in that same throne, gloating that he has monopolized everything. He even sneers that his brother wanted this chair but ended up dying on a log. What a gem. Back in the present, the raft just gently creaks on the water, a world away from that memory. And what a present it is! Nokel and Murmursig are kicking back in brand new, custom-built lounge chairs. Their little raft has been upgraded into a full-on floating patio, complete with an umbrella. Murmursig is sleeping so soundly in her new bed, looking utterly content for once. Meanwhile, Nokel is just living his best life, sipping on a coconut with a straw. Waking up, she is amazed he could build something so comfortable from a pile of junk. Our boy just lifts his sleep mask, proudly saying he imagined the best bed he knew. He then admits that since it is just a copy, it is probably not as good as the real thing. But Murmursig immediately shuts that down, insisting that he is completely wrong about that. With a slight blush, she tells him this is the very first time she has ever experienced something. She actually dreamed of being held by her mother, all because of how safe this bed felt. With a truly gentle smile, she sincerely thanks both Nokel and Aspie for their kindness. Nokel just beams and gives a huge thumbs up, while Aspie looks away, completely flustered. Bringing everyone back to reality, Aspie asks what their next move is going to be. She points out the obvious problem: building a city requires way more than just random ocean garbage. And our boy has to agree, realizing their resource problem is a massive roadblock to his dream. Aspie points out that to really expand, they will need to find garbage from somewhere besides the ocean. But Murmursig reminds them there is no land in sight, not that Nokel seems to care while he is napping. Except she suddenly remembers picking up some junk during her flight, a little souvenir for the road. Turns out she spotted something that looked a whole lot like an island in the distance. A giant, lonely spire with no people, but a treasure trove of old garbage just sitting at the top. Nokel's eyes practically pop out of his head, a whole island of premium, untouched trash. Without a second thought, he is up and running, announcing their next destination is officially set. He immediately unleashes his recycle skill, ready to give their patio raft a serious upgrade. This umbrella and other parts get deconstructed in a flash of light, and reformed into a brand new sail and mast. They have got propulsion now, baby. With his shirt conveniently unbuttoned, Nokel points to the horizon, declaring their quest for unknown garbage has begun. And just like that, their little raft is now a full-on sailboat, cutting through the waves with actual purpose. While they are sailing, Nokel decides it is the perfect time to do a little skill grinding. He is looking pretty pleased with himself, noting that his power is feeling good. His practice material is that mysterious, ornate scepter they could not identify before. And he has figured it out. He can now recycle magical items if he has a few other materials to work with. Our boy realizes that with more training, the possibilities of his skill are gonna be absolutely insane. Just then, Aspie calls out from the mist, announcing they have finally arrived at their destination. Nokel is completely blown away by the sheer scale of the place, while Murmursig just yawns. He confirms this is the spot with all the high-quality junk, and she is just like, "Yep, this is it." Nokel is absolutely vibrating with excitement, ready to get his hands on that sweet, sweet garbage. But Aspie brings up a valid point. The island is a sheer cliff with no place to actually land. She is also pretty sure that whatever junk is up there is probably just, worthless. Hearing this, Murmursig starts to worry she has led them on a completely pointless detour. But our boy just flashes a grin that screams, "I have complete and total faith in trash." He confidently tells her not to sweat it, staring up at the massive spire with determination. Holding up his ring, he explains you never know an item's true value until you try to recycle it. With his mind made up, he immediately spins around to start prepping for the climb, popping open a crate and pulling out a huge roll of what looks like canvas. He figures he will need to craft some serious climbing gear to get up that steep rock face. At that moment, Murmursig gently taps his shoulder with the tip of her wing. She then offers a ridiculously simple solution. Why does not she just fly up and get it for him? Our boy is stunned for a second, then happily hands her the large cloth to use as a makeshift bag. With a quick agreement, she takes off into the sky, ready for another express delivery run. While she is gone, Aspie calls Nokel over to the edge of the raft for a little look-see. He kneels down beside the turtle god, peering curiously into the water below. This water is shockingly clear, revealing all sorts of sunken objects on the ocean floor. And by objects, I mean an entire massive sunken city is just sitting right beneath them. Nokel's face absolutely explodes with joy. This is the ultimate garbage lover's paradise. He is just stunned, trying to process that a whole metropolis was hiding under the waves this entire time. Our boy's connecting the dots, realizing this spire was probably the top of a giant sunken tower. Right on cue, Murmursig swoops down with her express delivery from the spire's peak. With a huge grin, Nokel gets ready to inspect his brand new pile of high-altitude garbage. This bag spills open to reveal the shattered parts of some kind of ancient-looking cannon. This pile of junk leaves Nokel totally confused. He has never seen anything like it before. Aspie floats over for a closer look, recognizing something in the strange mechanical parts. And the turtle god drops a lore bomb. It is a weapon from an ancient civilization, a magic cannon. This reveal blows Nokel's mind, and he immediately asks Aspie for more details. But Aspie, the font of all ancient knowledge, suddenly gets very quiet and looks away, totally not suspicious. He explains it is a destructive weapon that uses a special formula to fire powerful magic blasts. Holding the pieces, Nokel's first thought is not, "Oh no, a weapon, but I wonder if I can fix it." This turtle god suggests he could probably repair it since he has seen all sorts of weapons back home. That gets the gears turning in our boy's head, trying to jog a specific memory. A memory clicks into place. He has seen something just like this in the oldest garbage dump in his kingdom. With a flash of inspiration, he figures he can totally build it if he has a staff to use as a core. And what do you know, that mysterious magical scepter they found earlier is perfect for the job. Wasting no time, he unleashes his recycle skill and the ancient parts start glowing and flying together. This broken bits and pieces slam into place, magically reassembling into a single, solid form. And just like that, the ancient magic cannon is fully restored, leaving the whole crew speechless. Nokel is absolutely geeking out over his new toy because what every floating raft needs is an ancient superweapon. Nokel, absolutely giddy with his new toy, decides it is time for a little test fire. He slaps his hand on the charging port, ready to juice this thing up with his own magic. This guy starts pouring in every ounce of power he has, groaning with the sheer effort. He is straining so hard his face is turning red, while Murmursig just watches, completely unimpressed. While he is giving it his all, she just straight up falls asleep, peak moral support right there. And just like that, Nokel is completely tapped out, collapsing on the deck after a record-short attempt. Despite being totally drained, he gets back up, claiming he has at least managed to load it. With a look of grim determination, he grabs the firing cord, ready for the big moment. He yells, "Fire!" with all the dramatic flair of a seasoned general. only for the cannon to let out a pathetic little pop and spit out a puff of smoke. Our boy just stands there with a dead-eyed smile, processing this absolute failure of a test run. Now he is sulking, convinced magic just is not for him, while Murmursig gives him a pity pat. Aspie just sighs, basically saying, "Fine, I will do it myself," as a halo of water forms above him. Suddenly, a blinding flash of light erupts from the tiny turtle, shocking Noel. When the light fades, Aspie is now in a full-on human form, announcing she is taking over. Her hand touches the cannon and it immediately starts glowing with some serious divine power. That magic canister on the side instantly fills to the brim, glowing with a brilliant light. Now in control, she grabs the firing mechanism, asking if this is all there is to it. With a little smirk, she says her shot will be a bit better than the prince's sad attempt. And she unleashes a massive energy beam that tears across the ocean. Yeah, just a asterisk little asterisk better. Aspie's shot unleashes a blinding beam and the recoil alone sends Noel flying backward. Her blast carves a massive hole straight through the spire, blowing the entire top half to bits. Our boy is screaming his head off about his ears ringing, while Murmursig just looks mildly impressed. Peering into the new hole, they see a hidden chamber and Aspie casually admits she overshot a bit. This kid is still losing his mind, basically screaming "What have you done?" at the top of his lungs. That little miscalculation has destabilized the entire spire, which is now actively collapsing. A massive boulder breaks free from the cliff, heading straight for their floating patio grate. Noel is screaming for everyone to evacuate because they are about to be crushed by falling rocks. This guy makes a desperate sprint across the deck, trying to dodge the incoming apocalypse. One look back confirms that yes, they are absolutely about to be flattened. Looking up, he sees the giant boulder just moments away from crushing him completely. But at the last second, Murmursig rockets in, delivering a flying kick with both feet. Her talons connect and the house-sized boulder just explodes into a cloud of dust and pebbles. Down on the deck, Noel gets completely soaked by the resulting splash, safe but stunned. In the aftermath, they all stand on the raft, realizing that was a ridiculously close call. Our boy just collapses, admitting he genuinely thought he was about to become a permanent fixture on the ocean floor. Even Murmursig seems to be feeling the aftereffects, clutching her leg in a bit of pain. Grateful, Noel offers her any reward she desires, and she seems pretty interested in the offer. Her expression softens, and with a little blush, she looks at him with some serious expectation. And her grand reward for saving his life from certain doom is a simple pat on the head. Noel is completely lost as Murmursig just turns her back to him, so he just tentatively reaches out, asking if a head pat is what she is after. And she absolutely melts, confirming this is exactly the 5-star treatment she wanted. Our boy apologizes for being so dense, while Aspie just watches this whole awkward exchange unfold. This turtle god explains that without worshippers, her magic has been super weak for ages. So when she went to charge the cannon, she misjudged her own power level completely. Turns out their belief in her gave her a massive power-up she did not factor in at all. Noel's mind is blown, so it was asterisk faith that supercharged the cannon, not just raw magic. He is suddenly all smiles, telling Aspie there is absolutely nothing to be sorry for. In fact, he is thrilled they finally have a real weapon to protect themselves with. But Aspie cuts in with some bad news, looking down at the cracked deck. Yeah, about that weapon, her one shot completely shattered it again, sending Noel into a panic. Without a second to lose, he whips out his recycle skill to stop the cannon from disintegrating. He barely holds it together, but Aspie points out the outer casing is still busted. Noel realizes he needs way better materials or this thing will just keep breaking on him. Just then, Murmursig steps forward, offering her wing for some reason. At that exact moment, a massive, dark shape is seen approaching through the clouds. Aspie is panicking, admitting the thick fog completely hid its approach until now. A cold sweat runs down Noel's face as he stares up at the ominous silhouette. Aspie, now in human form, grimly states that if it is the Alkene Navy, they are screwed. Murmursig's eyes narrow as she confirms she can finally see the approaching vessel, and what emerges from the fog is a massive beat-up galleon, a total ghost ship. Its hull is completely splintered, looking like it has been through a serious brawl. Plus, the tattered sails are sporting a surprisingly cute cat-themed Jolly Roger. This thing is definitely a pirate ship, and it looks like it has seen better centuries. Noel and Murmursig are freaking out, with her sensing a dangerous vibe from the vessel. Our boy can only stare in disbelief, confirming that yes, pirates are officially on the menu. Aspie immediately goes into panic mode, screaming at them to get out of there before they are seen, but Noel just stares at the ship, a thoughtful look on his face instead of fear. He points out that it looks more like a shipwreck than an active threat, with no crew in sight. Looking down from the massive ship, he notes the damage suggests it was hit by cannonballs. So he puts 2 and 2 together, figuring the crew is probably long gone, and a tiny, garbage-loving light bulb goes off over our boy's head. He joyfully declares that a derelict ship is basically a floating treasure chest of garbage. Aspie cannot believe it, asking if he is actually planning to board it, and he just grins, rope in hand. While he ties their raft down, Aspie mutters this is exactly why he earned his garbage prince title. He just takes it as a compliment, telling her not to praise him so much, zero self-awareness, all confidence. His logic is simple. Pirates are known for collecting treasure from all over the world, so that ghost ship might just have the high-quality materials he needs to fix their cannon for good. Wasting no time, he asks Murmursig for an airlift to the deck, and she is happy to oblige. Murmursig is absolutely melting from the head pats, clearly the peak of luxury for her. But the tender moment ends when she suddenly slams him to the deck, screaming in pain. Turns out her leg is still seriously aching from that boulder-shattering kick she delivered earlier. She calls Noel surprisingly fragile for a human while he just sits there completely bewildered. Shaking it off, our boy gets to his feet, all fired up to finally explore the ghost ship. Just as they reach a cabin door, a shadowy silhouette flashes past the window. Murmursig immediately calls it out, warning that she definitely saw a person inside. Noel's response to this is a deranged grin because nothing will stop his garbage hunt. His genius plan is to just walk up and politely ask the potential pirates for their trash. With zero hesitation, he throws the door open and marches right inside like he owns the place. This sight that greets him makes his eyes pop right out of his head, because the entire cabin is packed wall-to-wall with silent, armored warriors. Our boy, completely missing the vibe, cheerfully congratulates them on surviving the shipwreck. And then the visors lift, revealing an entire undead army with glowing red eyes. This whole crew collectively loses their minds, screaming in absolute terror at the reveal. Wasting no time, one of the skeleton knights lunges straight for Noel with its sword. This blow sends him tumbling backward across the deck, barely dodging the lethal swing. From the floor, Aspi helpfully screams that they are in fact skeletons, thanks for the update. Murmursig steps in to protect them, realizing a necromancer must be controlling these corpses. With a silent snarl, another skeletal soldier rushes in for the kill. Murmursig immediately intercepts the attack, delivering a brutal punch right to the skeleton's gut. This armored corpse goes flying backward from the sheer force of her protective rage. Following up, she stomps her massive talon right through its hand, pinning it to the deck. Its sword swing goes wide as she holds it down, completely neutralizing the threat. Noel just stares from the floor, absolutely floored by his bodyguard's sudden ferocity. This skeleton just chatters its teeth as her claws move in for the finishing blow, and with a single devastating squeeze, she completely pulverizes its spine into dust. She glares at the others, basically daring them to try and hurt her precious prince. Then she just goes on a rampage, kicking and tearing through the entire undead crew. Meanwhile, Noel and Aspi are cowering against the wall, utterly terrified by the carnage. With the last one down, Murmursig looks over, satisfied with her one-woman demolition job. Our boy is just so relieved, thanking her for saving them from the bony apocalypse. But then one of the shattered skeletons on the floor starts to magically reassemble itself. They all look on in horror as the entire undead army starts rising from the scrap heap. Before Murmursig can react, one of the reanimated skeletons grabs her from behind. It gets a death grip on her wing, its empty eye sockets fixed right on her. This rest of the horde swarms in, pinning her down so she cannot even move. Noel screams her name, watching his only line of defense get completely overwhelmed. He desperately rushes in, trying to pull one of the skeletons off of her back. But he has got zero strength, screaming that he cannot even budge its iron grip. While getting crushed by a metal boot, Aspi tearfully explains these were once proud warriors. They were created to recycle the wardead into an immortal army, a necromancer's dream team. Murmursig is absolutely disgusted, horrified at the thought of desecrating fallen soldiers for battle. With her pinned down, one of the skeletons turns its attention back to Noel, ready to finish the job. It brings its sword down for the kill, but the blade just shatters on impact with the floor. This skeleton just stands there, utterly baffled as to why its weapons suddenly turn to dust. Aspi, meanwhile, has completely lost her nerve, screaming that it is all over for them. But Noel plants his foot firmly on the deck, refusing to go down without a fight. He squares up against the bony soldier, ready to throw down despite the terrible odds. And scratch that, both he and Aspi are screaming in absolute, unfiltered terror. This skeleton's eye glows ominously, locking onto our boy as its next victim. Suddenly, it just stops and stares at its own hand, which seems to be breaking apart. Turns out Noel grabbed its sword hilt and is using his recycle skill to unmake it. In a flash of light, the weapon completely disintegrates, leaving the skeleton totally disarmed. Wasting no time, Noel follows up with a fierce swing of his own blade. His attack connects, sending the skeleton's head flying clean off its shoulders. Looking down at the twitching body, he realizes separating the head is the key to stopping them. That is a great discovery, except Murmursig is still being swarmed by the rest of the bony crew. At that moment, another skull hits the deck with a loud thud. With the skeletons dismantled, Noel rushes to Murmursig's side, who thanks him for the save. Aspi points out his recycle skill is the perfect counter since it just disintegrates their weapons. That little hint from Aspi is all he needs to put a new garbage-based plan into motion. He figures if the skeletons are just junk bodies with junk armor, he can recycle the whole package. This finally explains the whole ghost ship situation. The crew never left, they just got bonier. Meanwhile, Aspi is just a puddle of relieved turtle tears, completely overwhelmed by the near-death experience. She calls out his name, and our boy just looks down, totally clueless as to what is up now. Aspi then points to a nearby door, saying she can feel a faint human presence inside. Noel's hero complex immediately kicks in, figuring the skeletons were besieging some poor soul in there. So he just starts banging on the door like a frantic delivery guy, asking if anyone's home. Getting no answer, he tries the handle only to find it is locked up tight, not a good sign. He quickly deduces that it is not just locked, it has been barricaded from the other side for protection. Before he can think of a plan, Murmursig steps up, telling him to stand back and let her handle it. She winds up, spreading her wings for what is clearly about to be a very unsubtle entrance, and in a flash, she whips around and delivers a powerful kick straight at the door. Her kick absolutely obliterates the door, sending wood and debris flying everywhere. She casually asks if that was good enough as Noel just stares, reminded of her terrifying battle prowess. Of course, he tells her she was super helpful, rewarding her with another 5-star head pat. Stepping through the wreckage, they find themselves in what looks to be the captain's cabin, but his exploration is cut short when a dark, clawed figure suddenly looms over him, and the terrifying monster is a pirate captain lady completely passed out on the floor. Noel leans in, realizing the fearsome pirate captain is actually just a girl. He is completely baffled that someone so young could be a pirate, especially with that getup. Murmursig calmly informs him she's just unconscious, and our boy breathes a huge sigh of relief. But then a terrifying flashback hits him, making him panic about any other survivors on this cursed ship. Pushing the fear aside, Murmursig starts checking the captain for injuries while Noel thanks her. She carefully lifts the girl's leg to get a better look at any potential wounds. And sure enough, she finds a cut on her leg, likely from the skeleton crew's attack. Noel immediately goes into hero mode, vowing to find some medicine for her right away. So he starts rummaging through a nearby dresser because even a hero needs to loot. Aspe, ever the voice of reason, questions if helping a random pirate is really a good idea, but Noel explains he saw their flag before they even boarded, so they are probably not enemies. He points out the cute cat logo means this is a privateer ship from the Arking Kingdom. In other words, she is a government-sanctioned pirate, basically a state-sponsored menace. Apparently, the Arking Kingdom was once plagued by rampant pirate attacks. Their solution was to hire pirates to hunt other asterisk pirates, a classic fight fire with fire strategy. Aspe just breaks down crying, calling him an idiot for risking it all just for some high-class trash. Just then, the pirate captain's eye snaps open. Looks like nap time is officially over. Murmursig, completely unfazed, just gives her a casual good morning. This greeting sends the captain into a full-blown panic, screaming and leaping into the air. She lands on all fours, demanding to know who they are and revealing she is a catgirl pirate. She lands in a low, defensive crouch, ready to pounce on these strangers. With a fierce glare, she sizes up the intruders who just kicked down her door. This catgirl immediately springs away, trying to create distance from the giant winged woman. But Murmursig just catches her midair, asking if she is okay while the captain gets a face full of feathers. Noel rushes over with the first aid kit, trying to de-escalate and promise they are not enemies. He opens the medicine box, explaining the skeletons are gone and her leg needs attention now. Still processing, the captain just clings to Murmursig for dear life, who looks completely over it. Our boy gets to work bandaging her leg, apologizing for his less than professional medical skills. After getting patched up and dressed, she thanks him, finally calm enough for a conversation. This captain formally apologizes for freaking out, thanking them properly for the rescue. Turns out her name is Ginya's and she is the captain of this ship, the Golden Lynx. Murmursig gives her own name in response, with her usual stoic expression. Ginya's is still super flustered, but Murmursig just casually waves off her apologies. Then Aspe pops up to introduce herself because you cannot forget the talking turtle, and that immediately sends the captain into another screaming fit, a talking turtle. Finally, our boy introduces himself with a confident smile, Noel Arkeen. That last name, Arkeen, makes her eyes go wide with sudden, dawning horror. Then Noel, completely tone-deaf, asks if she has any garbage he can have, leaving her baffled. Suddenly it clicks, she recognizes him as Noel Arkeen, the infamous criminal with a deadly curse skill, and our boy just stands there sweating, completely clueless as to why his name just caused a panic attack. Ginya draws her blade, vowing to capture Noel before his curse can harm anyone else. Our boy just tries to calm her down as she literally levitates with pure, unadulterated panic. Aspe yells that his terrible reputation has clearly spread way farther than they thought. Ignoring them, Ginya tells him to prepare himself, ready to take down the infamous criminal. She stomps her foot, launching herself forward for what she thinks will be a heroic attack. But Noel just holds out the broken sword hilt, completely baffled by this whole situation. This sight of it makes her stop dead, suddenly looking incredibly green around the gills. Her hand flies to her mouth as she stares down at Aspe, her attack completely forgotten. And then she is just projectile vomiting over the side of the ship, a truly majestic sight. Next thing you know, a mop is getting a serious workout cleaning up the deck. Noel grumbles about the horrible mess while Murmursig just watches, totally unfazed. Ginya sits nearby, absolutely mortified at being pitied by her enemy for a second time. Turns out the mighty pirate captain has a crippling case of super seasickness, which is just perfect. He tells her again they are not enemies, adding that she cannot really help her condition. She then explains her dream is to become a great privateer, just like her father was, but her career took a hit after an unfortunate accident during a naval mock battle blew up a ship. Noel repeats her words with a look that says he knows exactly what kind of accident that was. Just thinking about it is enough to make Ginya's look like she is about to get sick again. He quickly tells her to stop talking if it is going to trigger another round of deck swabbing, and she just looks away, completely overwhelmed and embarrassed by the whole ordeal. Ginya's explains that if she cannot command it, this ship is doomed to become garbage, and the word garbage immediately gets Noel's full, undivided attention. She remembers being taught at the Naval Academy that a masterless ship is just trash. It is nothing more than a floating junk pile waiting to sink into the sea. With her crew gone and her dream shattered, she feels like a total failure. This ship was her father's, and she spent her whole life wanting to follow in his footsteps. After he went missing, she was determined to take his place and studied for years, but her crippling seasickness means she cannot even properly command the vessel. Nokel listens to her whole tragic story, a brilliant idea clearly brewing in his head. He agrees that if she gives up, the ship will indeed become useless junk, which is not exactly the motivational speech she was looking for, judging by her expression. Murmursig chimes in that even with his skills, they are not exactly sailors who can help. To prove his point, Nokel just snaps a piece of wood off a nearby table. He holds up the splintered plank as his recycle skill activates right in front of her. In a brilliant flash of light, the broken wood begins to reform and reshape, and he proudly presents her with a perfectly crafted miniature table, good as new. Ginya just stares, her brain completely short-circuiting at the magic she just witnessed. He tells her that while traveling with a criminal is risky, she can use his power to get to shore. But she is still skeptical, pointing out that the entire ship is a total wreck. So our boy asks for a grand tour to see exactly what kind of garbage he has to work with. Ginya reluctantly agrees to his garbage tour, still not quite sure what to make of this guy. So Nokel just scoops her up for a piggyback ride because walking is clearly for chumps. As he carries her outside, she thanks him but immediately notes how badly the ship is swaying. And that is all it takes for her seasickness to kick right back in, much to Nokel's confusion. Cue another majestic round of projectile vomiting while our heroes look on completely unfazed. They decide to relocate to their much smaller, much less stable-looking raft for a bit. After the cleanup, Nokel gives himself a quick rinse because every hero needs a gratuitous shirtless scene. Ginya's is back to apologizing profusely, while Nokel just looks like he has accepted his fate as a janitor. Aspi suggests they all just chill on the raft for a bit, which sounds like a terrible idea for a seasick pirate. Ginya stands nervously beside Murmursig, probably wondering what new fresh hell awaits her. But then she realizes something incredible. For the first time ever, she is on the water and not getting sick. Turns out Aspi is using her Blessing of the Earth skill to stabilize the raft with magical roots. Ginya's is stunned, and Aspi explains she used to help shipwrecked sailors with this power all the time. In a flashback, we see her using her ability to calm the waves for passing ships. This power apparently made trade routes much safer, and she looks back on it fondly. But then new magic devices from other nations made her powers obsolete, a classic tale of automation taking jobs. Ginya listens intently, her heart going out to the little talking turtle with a tragic past. Aspi finishes her story, explaining her island eventually sank, leaving her utterly alone for ages. Yet there is a flicker of determination in her eye, showing she is more than just a victim. Nokel takes all this in, a serious look on his face as he learns about his friend's lonely history. After hearing Aspi's tragic story, Nokel gets dressed with a new, steely resolve. Aspi tells him that while he is a kind-hearted garbage lover, he better not mess up Ginya's ship. Ginya just stands there silently, still trying to wrap her head around this whole bizarre crew. She finally agrees that staying on their raft might be the only way to cure her seasickness. Since the ship is a wreck anyway, she decides it is better to put it to good use than let it sink. With a desperate look, she formally entrusts her father's beloved ship to Nokel's care. Our boy just grins, absolutely thrilled to accept the challenge of recycling an entire galleon. He declares his grand plan is to use the ship's materials to massively expand their raft. First on the agenda is a full-blown garbage tour to sort the useful stuff from the junk. Then Aspi just casually transforms into a human girl, leaving Ginya's completely shell-shocked. With the team assembled, Nokel starts directing the world's most chaotic salvage operation. He throws his hand forward, activating his recycle skill with some serious, dramatic flair. All the salvaged wood and materials instantly reform into neat, organized stacks. In a flash, their tiny raft is now connected to a massive, newly constructed wooden deck. This whole crew takes a well-deserved lunch break on their new platform, finally looking like a team. He has even built them all separate beds. This is less a raft and more a floating studio apartment. This remains of the golden links now just float as debris, completely stripped for parts. But Nokel's not done yet, activating his power one last time with a glowing magic circle. With a triumphant shout and a little spirit on his shoulder, he declares the project is complete, and he reveals their new home, a massive, multi-story floating village built from the old ship. Nokel announces they're finally approaching another sea city, looking way too proud of his floating village. He has even built a dedicated garbage box because priorities people. On top of that, he has installed a proper toilet and washroom on this glorified raft. Our boy proudly presents the new cabin, a proper shelter from the elements. He admits he could not build a magic cannon with the materials, but hey, maybe next time. With that, he gives a little knock on one of the new doors. To check on Murmursig, who is already making herself at home in her new bed. She confirms it is incredibly comfortable, looking completely at peace for once. They have a little moment with her thanking him and Nokel just happy she approves. But then Ginya's appears and Nokel's good mood immediately evaporates. He starts frantically apologizing for turning her father's ship into a raft extension, but Ginya's is actually tearing up, telling him it is not what he thinks at all. In fact, she is completely and utterly moved by what he has done. She explains that all her life, she has only heard his recycle skill called a useless curse. Taking a step forward, she gets ready to set the record straight. This former captain holds out a hand, declaring that in reality, it is an absolutely wonderful skill, touching the wall he built from her ship's remains. With a blush, she sincerely thanks him for preserving the memories of her father. Nokel just gives a confident thumbs up, totally soaking in the praise. Now that everyone's on the same page, he asks if she knows the way to the Naval Academy. Ginya tells him to hang on a sec, pulling out a strange-looking navigational tool. She starts using a sextant to get their bearings while Nokel just stares, having no clue what it is. After a moment of intense calculation, she announces she's got their exact position, and with a dramatic point, she confidently declares which direction they need to head. Nokel just follows her finger to a whole lot of nothing but empty ocean. He and Aspie cannot see a single thing, but Ginya assures them it is all good. She then boasts about being a genius of the sea, a hilarious claim from the Queen of Seasickness. A little later, Ginya's is tying up her hair, revealing she has cat ears and a tail, which is a new development. Hearing a call from outside, she quickly answers, ready for the next step of their journey. It is Nokel excitedly calling her over to the deck to see something. He points toward a distant island, asking if that is the Naval Academy she mentioned. She whips out a spyglass, her eyes widening as she confirms that is the place. Through her lens, we see Marine Island, their destination finally on the horizon. Ginya's then drops a bombshell that island is actually her hometown. This name, Marine Island, rings a bell for Nokel, who tries to place where he has heard it. She just waves it off, saying it is fine if he does not recognize the name. Apparently, it used to be a major hub for both the Navy and pirates, but now it is just a small village. Nokel is completely floored by the idea of the Navy and pirates sharing a base. Talk about a weird history. He asks to borrow her spyglass for a closer look, and she happily hands it over. What he sees is a port swarming with naval ships, and Aspie immediately panics that they will be discovered. Ginya's, now sporting full-on cat ears, points out an old, unused port where they can land undetected. With a plan set, their magnificent floating village sails toward the island for a stealthy approach. Making it to the rickety pier, the crew finally steps onto solid ground after their long journey. Nokel is massively relieved, just glad they made it ashore in one piece. Her face is absolutely beaming as she thanks him for bringing her back to her hometown. She is so grateful she even takes off her hat for a formal, heartfelt bow of gratitude. Our boy just plays it cool with a wink, saying he was happy to help, for the garbage. But Murmursig's expression suddenly goes ice cold, her senses picking something up nearby. With a wing pointed at some crates, she alerts Nokel that someone's hiding over there. Ginya's calls out to the lurker, and a shadowy figure peeks out from behind the boxes. This person hiding is a nervous-looking young girl, clearly not expecting to be found. Nokel's brain goes straight to the worst-case scenario. They have been caught by the Navy. A single boot steps out from the shadows, building the suspense for a whole second, and the big reveal is a kid who looks more scared of them than anything else. He and Murmursig are just baffled. This is definitely not a high-ranking naval officer. A closer look at her bandana reveals a skull and crossbones, which is not standard Navy attire. Ginya's, however, recognizes her immediately, shouting out the name Natem. This girl's face completely lights up, and she breaks into a dead sprint toward her. She launches herself into Ginya's arms for a tearful, happy reunion hug. Nokel just watches this unfold, making the brilliant deduction that they might know each other. Natem explains she has been waiting all this time for Ginya's to finally come back home. Ginya's pats her on the head, apologizing for being away so long, while Natem just wants more ship lessons. She then introduces the crew, telling Natem these are the people who made her return possible. This kid formally introduces herself as Natem from the pirate village. Wait, pirate village. Our boy Nokel gives his full, ridiculously formal name with a charming smile. Natem immediately asks if he is really Ginya's friend, considering he is a wanted great sinner. While Nokel is having a minor meltdown, Natem just gushes about how much she has always admired Ginya's. Ginya's immediately clamps a hand over her mouth before she can spill the beans about her chronic seasickness. To change the subject, she graciously invites the whole crew to her village as a thank you. Our boy waves it off, pointing out that it is a nice offer, but getting caught by the Navy would be a disaster. She reassures him the academy is a bit isolated, and she is pretty sure she can vouch for them with the villagers. Then Aspie's eyes light up when she hears there is a ton of old ship garbage near the village. This word garbage activates Nokel, who grabs Ginya's and insists his skill will be super useful. He is absolutely ecstatic, declaring this the best possible welcome. Ginya's looks completely overwhelmed. With a triumphant yahoo, Nokel just sprints ahead into the woods, leaving the others to follow, so the whole bizarre crew heads down the forest path toward the village. Nokel turns to Aspie, asking if she is feeling uneasy about following them. Suddenly, he is tied up and surrounded by pirates with drawn blades, asking if he is bait for the pirate healers. Murmursig watches this mess, calmly stating she does not think Ginya's is the type to set a trap. Our boy glances back down the path, a hint of genuine concern on his face for the first time. Ginya's demands to know how she is so sure, and Murmursig just calmly explains her senses told her. Then she just invades Ginya's personal space, explaining it is all about a person's smell. A big all sniff of Ginya's neck follows, a totally normal and not at all creepy greeting. Murmursig clarifies that Ginya's does not reek of hostility, so everything's cool, you guys. Nokel is just completely lost, asking what the heck the smell of hostility is supposed to be. We get a quick lesson. Harpies can literally smell people's magic and hostile intent. Our boy realizes that is how she sensed Natem. She was picking up the hostility from the pirates hiding nearby. Natem suddenly grabs his arm, trying to stop him from jumping to conclusions. This kid insists that while some pirates are bad, the people in her village are different. With a super earnest face, she begs him to believe her, promising they are not the bad guys. Apparently, her village follows the code of Ginya's dad, a Robin Hood-style pirate who helped the poor. She even points out a statue of him, saying he taught them that being a pirate means more than just stealing. Noel is completely sold, blushing like a kid who just met his hero's daughter. He turns to Ginya's, absolutely gushing about how her dad was a total legend. But then he notices Ginya's has completely face-planted and Murmursig is gone. Ginya's from the ground explains Murmursig flew off after catching a weird smell. Our boy is just confused, repeating weird smell as if that explains anything at all. Just then, Murmursig comes dive-bombing out of the sky, screaming Noel's name. She lands in a panic, telling him something is seriously wrong. He turns around, completely baffled, as she taps him on the shoulder to get his attention. She points toward the village, which is currently a raging inferno, not a great sign. Ginyas and Natam are absolutely horrified, realizing their entire home is on fire. This kid is just trembling, completely unable to process the disaster in front of her. Noel immediately snaps into leader mode, telling everyone they have to move now. So the whole crew just bolts through the woods, racing toward the smoke and flames. They are sprinting down the path, the glow of the fire getting brighter with every step. Ginyas has a look of pure terror on her face, pushing herself to run even faster. But just as they are about to burst out of the trees, she throws out a hand to stop Noel. She points toward the village entrance where a line of figures is standing guard. It is the Navy and they are just watching the place burn down, not lifting a finger. Murmursig realizes they are not there to help, they are just blockading the area. In fact, she can smell their hostility, guessing they are the ones who started the fire. Ginyas is completely losing it, screaming about how the Navy broke their neutrality pact. Meanwhile, Natam is just whispering for her parents, absolutely terrified for them. Noel gently puts a hand on her shoulder, trying to keep her from falling apart. He tries to reassure her, telling her that everything is going to be all right. With the front gate a no-go, our boy starts brainstorming a new plan of attack, and then he gets an idea, suggesting they could just go in from the sky. Ginyas' eyes light up. If Murmursig carries them, they can bypass the Navy completely. He asks if she can handle the weight, and she just casually agrees, ready for human airlift duty. Murmursig gets a look of pure, unadulterated focus. It is go time. And she is airborne, carrying the entire crew like a very awkward, screaming human kite. Ginyas is already complaining her head's about to get ripped off, so much for a stealthy aerial insertion. They touch down in the middle of absolute chaos, with naval archers just letting arrows fly into the crowd. One soldier calmly notches a fire arrow, completely unfazed by the civilians running for their lives. A little boy is just kneeling and crying, surrounded by the horrific aftermath of the attack. A pristine white boot steps right into the scene, showing zero respect for the fallen. From behind, a naval officer casually remarks how well the place is burning as his subordinate salutes him. Meet Colonel Washa, a guy with a nose that could double as a weapon, declaring all pirates are garbage. With a truly villainous grin, he orders his men to just keep setting everything on fire. This psycho then starts a pop quiz, asking the terrified villagers who the most respected captain is. His soldiers immediately start screaming his name in a display of terrified loyalty or just terror. Washa then asks who the strongest man on the sea is, clearly loving the sound of his own name. His men scream his name again, and he gives them the most punchable, self-satisfied grin imaginable. But his face falls as he looks at the crying boy and just says, "Wrong." This kid looks up, defiantly telling the colonel that he is not the strongest at all. With tears streaming down his face, he shouts that the real strongest is a man named Francis. We get a glimpse of this legendary pirate Francis, a hero who apparently protected this village. This kid then tells the colonel to get lost, calling him Big Nose, a truly fatal mistake. Wash's men just stare in absolute horror, knowing their boss's ego just took a direct hit. Wash's face twists into a smug, chilling grin. He is clearly enjoying this little power trip. He gives a nod to his subordinate, an archer who looks like he just swallowed a bug. This order is given: burn the kid with the rest of this trash, because of course it is. That poor kid is absolutely paralyzed with fear, bracing for the absolute worst. This archer just stammers, completely shocked by the command to harm a child. He actually tries to object, pointing out that their target is, a literal kid. Washa immediately grabs him by the collar, clearly not a fan of insubordination. With ice in his eyes, he asks why anyone would hesitate to eliminate garbage. This soldier's face is just screaming, "I have made a terrible career choice." Washa then stomps on a pirate flag, ranting about how heroes like Francis make him sick. He starts shaking the poor guy, screaming that all pirates are dangerous, no exceptions. This soldier tries to plead for the kid's life, but his words just get choked off. Then comes the threat. Washa asks if the soldier and his family are garbage too. Subtlety is not his strong suit. And just like that, the soldier's spine completely dissolves into a puddle of fear. He draws his fire arrow, begging for his family to be spared as he follows the horrific order. His hand is shaking so hard it is a miracle he can even hold the bow steady. With no other choice, he lets the flaming arrow fly straight at the boy. Wash's grin is absolutely demonic. He is getting exactly what he wanted. This kid can only watch in horror as the arrow screams right toward him. In the reflection of his eye, the soldier who fired the shot is already running away. But at the very last second, a flash of light intercepts the arrow mid-flight, and there is Noel kneeling protectively in front of the boy with a glowing ring in his hand. His skill just completely atomizes the flaming arrow into nothing but dust. Wash's face is a perfect picture of what the hell just happened. Our boy rises to his feet, now standing between the kid and the stunned naval officers. Behind him, the kid looks up in awe, realizing that being a pirate or not is completely irrelevant. Nokel's eyes narrow, thinking that no matter the excuse, attacking a helpless child is unforgivable. With a fiery aura flaring up, he holds out his ring and declares they are the real garbage here. Washa takes a drag from his cigar, demanding to know who this nobody is since he is clearly not a local. Our boy just stares him down, completely unfazed by the military posturing. His expression is ice cold, thinking this blowhard has no idea he is talking to a prince. This colonel points out that this newcomer is the one who just dismantled his soldiers' attack. With a smug grin, Washa wonders if our boy can handle a whole squad, ordering them all to take aim. Nokel's eyes narrow, he is clearly not backing down from this fight. In a sudden move, he just kicks over a huge pile of burning wooden planks. He gives the kid a quick apology for borrowing his house, then raises his ring to use his skill. Washa just screams the order for his men to let the arrows fly. A whole volley of arrows comes screaming right for Nokel and the debris he is standing by. His hand glows as he activates his skill, ready to counter the entire attack. And his skill is recycle, all that broken wood flies up to form a massive shield. This arrows just thud uselessly into the makeshift wooden wall, not even coming close. Nokel's recycle skill turns an entire house into a perfect arrow-proof barricade. Washa and his goons just stare, completely baffled that their attack did absolutely nothing. Behind the wall, the kid and his mom can only watch in awe as their home literally saves them. But Nokel is not done. He reaches out, ready to turn this defense into a brutal offense. Suddenly, random household junk starts flying through the air with some serious purpose. All that debris comes together, forming a massive, angry-looking fist aimed right at the Navy. These soldiers look up in pure terror as their doom, made of furniture, descends upon them. This thing just keeps growing into a giant arm, with Nokel telling them playtime is officially over. With a furious roar, our boy swings his giant junk golem arm right at the enemy line. Washa tries to block the incoming trash-avalanche with his bare hands, a bold strategy. Let us see how it pays off. And we get a glorious shot of his face contorting in pure, unadulterated panic. This junk fist slams down with incredible force, sending soldiers scattering like bowling pins. His men get absolutely pummeled by barrels and planks in a truly undignified defeat. This kid just sits there, stunned into silence by the sheer chaos unfolding before him. Washa, now completely unhinged, screams for his men to use all their power to kill Nokel. One very brave or very stupid soldier actually charges in with a sword, ready to follow that insane order. He does not even get close before getting absolutely launched into the air and face-planting hard. That soldier is left twitching on the ground, a clear message to anyone else with bright ideas. Just then, backup arrives as Ginya's and Murmursig land right in the middle of the fight. Ginya's lands in the middle of the carnage, demanding to know what the hell is going on. A downed soldier recognizes her as a famous pirate's daughter and absolutely loses it over the harpy. He scrambles to Washa, insisting they cannot fight a harpy and need to make a strategic withdrawal. Washa's cigar just plops right out of his mouth, so much for his tough guy act. He points dramatically, ordering a full retreat but promising he will remember this little stunt. And with that, the entire naval force just turns tail and runs for the hills. This villagers, seeing their tormentors flee, erupt into cheers for their unexpected saviors. Nokel just dusts off his hands, casually remarking that things have finally settled down. Ginya's worries that the Navy saw his face, but Nokel points out he did not realize he was a prince. He gives a cheerful thumbs up, saying it is fine since the Navy would not recognize him from his trash pile days. With the immediate threat gone, Nokel announces it is time to start helping the villagers rebuild. Ginya's just stares at him with wide, completely starstruck eyes. But at that exact moment, a wave of dizziness hits Nokel out of nowhere. He suddenly collapses to his knees, clutching his head as Ginya's cries out his name. Our boy is completely wiped, wondering why his body suddenly feels so heavy and exhausted. Ginya's and Natam immediately realize what is happening. It is the backlash from his skill. Natam explains that creating that massive junk arm must have burned a ridiculous amount of energy. Nokel tries to stand, insisting he is fine and just needs a quick breather. As the crew turns to help, they are met by the back of a woman in a floral bandana. They are suddenly face to face with a group of villagers who look anything but grateful. This lead villager identifies Nokel as the supposedly executed Prince of Alkene, so much for a low profile. Ginyas and Natam immediately go into full-on panic mode, trying to insist he is not a bad guy. But instead of a fight, a massive feast suddenly appears on the table. Okay, plot twist. Turns out that angry mob was just a welcome party, now calling the crew the saviors of the village. Nokel is completely thrown, asking why they'd be so kind to a wanted criminal like him. This villager explains that not only did he beat Washa, he also rebuilt their entire town with his skill. With a huge laugh, the guy declares he owes Nokel his life and tells him to just eat already. After a moment's hesitation, our boy finally decides to dig in, accepting their hospitality. This whole crew starts chowing down, with Nokel admitting it is nice to eat on solid ground for a change. Even Murmursig and Ginyas are happily stuffing their faces, the earlier danger completely forgotten. Ginyas politely thanks the man for sharing such precious food with them. That one word catches Nokel's attention. He realizes the village must be suffering from a food shortage. We get another glimpse of the legendary pirate Francis, a guy who clearly had a soft spot for kids. Ginya's meanwhile is just blissfully unaware, still enjoying her meal without a care in the world. Noel says the name Francis out loud, putting the pieces together from the kid's story. This little boy from before pops up, excitedly asking if the prince knows his hero. He explains that Francis rescued him from slavery and brought all the orphans here to be a family. Then comes the bombshell. A villager casually reveals that the great pirate Francis is actually Ginya's father. Natem looks concerned, adding that she'd heard Francis had gone missing some time ago. This mood in the room suddenly turns somber as the villagers look down, the celebration officially over. This lead villager starts to explain, saying it has been a long time since it all began. Turns out Francis sailed off one day to have a little chat with the king of Alkene. Noel is completely floored, asking why the pirate would ever want to meet his dad. Before he vanished, Francis was apparently trying to solve a serious problem for the island. Natem holds up a rotten apple core, explaining he wanted to clean up the island's garbage. And our boy's face just drops as he connects the dots between garbage and the food shortage. This local fish are eating toxic magical debris, poisoning anyone who eats them, a real 5-star dining experience. Since the islanders could not fix it alone, Francis went to the kingdom to ask for help. Noel finally gets it. This magical pollution is the real reason for the village's famine. With her father's mission still unfinished, Ginya stands up, looking ready to take charge. Her hand clenches with resolve, clearly deciding she's going to see this through. She strikes a pose, vowing to protect everyone from both trash and villains in his stead, very heroic. This villagers absolutely erupt, totally fired up by her declaration of becoming their new protector. They are already calling her the next captain, and the whole room is just pure hype. Noel just watches with a proud smile, happy to see her find her purpose. He then turns to Ginya's, getting her attention with a simple call of her name. With a serious look, he tells her he is finally starting to understand why her father is so revered here. In fact, he is so inspired he leans in, eagerly asking for more stories about the legendary pirate. Ginya's is taken aback for a second, but then a huge, happy smile spreads across her face. From across the room, she gives a cheerful yes, ready to share all her father's tales. Meanwhile, back at a very official-looking naval base, someone is about to get a very angry report. And yeah, someone is absolutely furious, slamming their fist down on a desk with a loud crash. This new official, rocking a truly villainous nose, is screaming about how some garbage dared to embarrass him. With Francis gone, he is ranting that this is the perfect chance to finally annihilate that entire village. His subordinate timidly points out that they will need a real plan to counter the harpy and that mysterious skill user. Our long-nosed villain just grinds his teeth, furious that Ginya's brought along unnecessary companions to the party. He is fuming, wondering how she managed to wrangle a bunch of monsters and inherited her father's knack for leadership. Another soldier smirks that you'd expect nothing less from Francis's daughter as his colleague looks terrified. And for that little comment, he gets a fist served directly to his face. Bon appetit. It was the long-nosed official himself who threw the punch, his fist now bloody as he glares down the insubordinate goon. This guy completely loses it, screaming at his underling for daring to praise the enemy right in front of him. He then delivers a swift kick to the downed soldier. Clearly, he is a big believer in positive reinforcement. Blood spatters across his fancy metal as he whines that garbage just cannot comprehend his glorious achievements. With a face of pure unhinged fury, he screams that their kind has no place in this world. Back in the village, the night is quiet as we focus on a single lit window. Inside, Noel is resting up, thinking to himself that things certainly got lively today. It dawns on him that Francis's unfinished business is actually the exact same as his own dream. He looks at his ring, figuring that with this new purpose, Ginya's will likely stick around on his raft. At that exact moment, the silhouette of a certain cat-eared girl appears at his door. This door creaks open to reveal Natem, who calls out his name, though our boy was clearly expecting Ginya's. Noel casually asks what is up, a little surprised by her late-night visit. His eyes widen just a fraction as he takes in the unexpected situation. Natem apologizes for bothering him, explaining she just needed to see him. She nervously adds that there is something important she wants to discuss with him. With a shy look, she asks if it is okay for her to come into his room for a bit. Our boy, ever the gentleman, happily invites her in, offering his bed since there are no chairs. She politely thanks him and takes a seat right on the edge of the mattress. Sitting there, Noel cannot help but notice she has a completely different, more mature vibe tonight. Then she scoots just a little bit closer to him on the bed, and Noel absolutely freaks out, jumping back as she yelps an apology. Real smooth, buddy. He tries to regain his composure, telling her to relax and just say what is on her mind. Getting serious, Natem explains she came because there is something she must tell him specifically. He is confused why it is just for him, but she insists she does not want to worry the other villagers. Outside, the full moon hangs in the sky, setting a somber tone for this secret meeting. She finally reveals her purpose, to tell him the real reason she was shipwrecked out at sea. We jump into a flashback where a much younger Natem calls out to her dad. Her father, a big friendly-looking pirate, turns around and asks her what is wrong. She asks if he is off to play righteous pirate again on orders from the Navy. But he just laughs, saying they are like cats who help people simply because they choose to. And we see their pirate flag, a cute but determined-looking cat face, proving his point. Her father proudly calls them the Sea Cat Pirates, a crew that follows its own heart. A much younger Nadam is absolutely sparkling, completely captivated by the romance of it all. Riding on his shoulders, she cheers that she is absolutely going to be a pirate when she grows up. He gently lifts her down from his shoulders, her excitement momentarily paused. Kneeling down, he tells her it is not that simple, but then smiles, adding that she is his daughter. With a proud grin, he pats her head, promising she will become a heavenly king someday for sure. Just then, a naval officer calls for Francis, and he gets up ready to leave. She asks him why he is leaving on the Golden Lynx instead of their own ship. Francis explains that the kingdom hates pirates, so going with the navy is his only way into the castle. Waving goodbye, he entrusts Ginyas with protecting the sea cats until he returns. This flashback ends, bringing us back to the quiet, moonlit room in the present. Nadam tells Noel that was the last time she ever saw her father alive. Sometime after he vanished, Washa and a group of officials arrived with grim news for the village. It is the long-nosed official declaring Francis dead and ordering the sea cats to be disbanded. This lead villager is absolutely furious, demanding to know why they are doing this. This creep smugly explains their ship originally belonged to the kingdom, so it is just being repossessed. But the villager argues that Francis has a daughter, Ginyas, who should be the rightful heir. Our villain just scoffs, blowing smoke in her face while dismissing the idea of a kid inheriting anything. A nasty idea starts to form in his head as he taps his pipe, thinking what if? He then offers a twisted deal. Ginyas can have the ship if she gets a privateer's license from the Naval Academy. This lead villager grabs a younger Ginyas, furious at the idea of a kid inheriting the ship. And our long-nosed villain chimes in, smugly telling her that it is just too bad for her. He gleefully explains the academy is a 4-year program, so the ship would be gone by her second year. In his mind, there is absolutely no way she could possibly make it in time. But Ginyas just clutches her father's hat, her face a mask of pure, unyielding resolve. So against all odds, she enrolled in the Naval Academy anyway, ready to prove them all wrong. Standing there, she is clearly an outsider among all the other cadets who just stare. Her new goal is to graduate within 2 years, a feat everyone considers completely impossible. Of course, the other students just laugh at her ambition, pelting her with trash as she studies. Even her books are covered in charming messages like "see garbage and get lost." Despite the bullying, she holds on to the fact that the possibility is not zero, there is still a chance. She throws herself into brutal physical training, pushing her body to the absolute limit. And it pays off with her name shooting to the top of the class rankings, shocking everyone. This incredible performance catches the eye of a high-ranking fleet admiral, a very decorated old man. He explains that there is a system in place for exceptional individuals to skip grades, all at his discretion. With a flourish, he promotes Ginyas directly from Class 2 to Class 4, much to the villain's horror. Our long-nosed creep can only sweat and agree, since he cannot exactly argue with the big boss. Ginyas accepts the promotion with tears in her eyes, thanking the admiral for the opportunity. Even though Washa clearly hates her, he is powerless to overrule the fleet admiral's final decision. Thanks to that promotion, she was able to take her graduation exam, a mock battle at sea, within her 2-year deadline. This test is a one-on-one mock battle where you win by tagging the enemy ship with special magic, and the result was a complete disaster, mostly because Ginyas got incredibly seasick. She returns to the dock totally dejected, admitting she could not do a single thing out there. This fleet admiral tells her it is a real shame since everything about her is perfect except her practical skills. But as Francis's daughter, he makes a special exception, suggesting she try again on a different ship. Washa is just grinding his teeth in the background, absolutely furious at this blatant favoritism. So for her second shot, Ginyas decides to take the exam on her father's ship, the Sea Cat. She even dons her dad's old pirate uniform, hoping to borrow a little of his courage for the fight. With a new fire in her eyes, she thinks this might just give her the confidence she needs. But the cadets assigned as her crew are already telling her to get off the ship before the battle starts. These absolute gems call her sea garbage, saying the lieutenant colonel ordered them not to help her. Ginyas desperately reaches out, pleading with them to wait for a moment. She cannot exactly sail a massive ship by herself, but they just row away, leaving her completely stranded. That is when the enemy ship opens fire, and those do not look like practice shots. A volley of actual cannonballs comes screaming right toward her vessel. They slam into the hull, ripping the deck apart with very real explosions. Ginyas is thrown across the deck as her father's legacy is torn to splinters. This mass crack and the whole ship is just getting absolutely shredded. On the ground, she realizes this is not the non-lethal magic for the test. It is a genuine combat assault. And from the other ship, one of the cadets just watches the destruction unfold. This lead cadet on the enemy ship frantically radios into Washa for new orders. He reports that they have isolated Ginyas but admits actually hitting her is proving difficult. Washa tells him to just report it as an accident later and send in the skeletons to finish her off. With a face only a mother could hate, he sneers that sea garbage needs a proper burial. His subordinate immediately relays the command to prepare the skeletons for launch. And by launch, they mean literally catapulting barrels onto her deck, because why not? This barrel smashed down right beside Ginyas, who is completely caught off guard by the bizarre attack. She is just trying to figure out what is happening as her ship gets pelted with party favors from hell. Suddenly, one of the barrels starts to crack and splinter from the inside. A skeletal hand punches right through the wood. Surprise, it is a murder in a box. An armored skeleton climbs out, standing before a completely stunned Ginyas. Turns out Washa sent an entire platoon of these bony goons just to be thorough. Ginyas is absolutely horrified, finally understanding this was never a test to begin with. One of them lunges forward with a sword and she barely dodges the attack, getting grazed. Cornered and injured, she makes a desperate dash for the captain's cabin. She just barely manages to slam the heavy door shut behind her. Collapsing inside, the whole room shakes as the ship continues to be torn apart. She clutches her leg, realizing she was cut deeper than she thought during that last dodge. Her consciousness starts to fade as the blood loss and shock take their toll, and back in the present, Nadham explains that is when she passed out, right before Noel found her adrift at sea. Hearing her story, Noel's fist clenches so hard the entire bed shakes. He absolutely explodes with rage and Ginya's flinches back, totally startled by his reaction. In his mind, there is only one thought, that scumbag Washa was perfectly fine with her dying. Ginyas quickly tries to calm him down, apologizing for dumping all of this on him, but Noel's expression shifts from pure fury to cold, steely resolve. He looks her in the eye and asks what she wants to do now. Is she giving up on the license? Her cat-like eyes narrow with a fire that says absolutely not. Staring out the window, she vows she cannot give up on her father's dream or her own. Noel gently tells her that to revive the sea cats, she will need to confess everything, but this trauma hits her hard. She is terrified of being abandoned and called sea garbage again, and our boy just grins, saying, "Sea garbage, that is perfect." Because of course he does. Ginyas is just completely baffled by his bizarrely cheerful response. He turns back to her, declaring that she is not alone anymore because she has friends now. She is still hesitant, worried about what will happen if she fails the next mock battle. Noel then whips out a glowing artifact, promising to recycle Ginyas into something amazing. Overwhelmed by his weirdly wholesome support, she just breaks down in tears of relief. Meanwhile, outside the door, a harpy and a kid have been eavesdropping on the whole thing. The sun rises over the island, signaling a brand new day and a new plan in the making. Elsewhere, breakfast is ready, with someone calling out for Noel over some grilled fish. A mermaid girl wonders where Ginyas is, holding a fish on a stick. Priorities, people. This mermaid and Ginyas are chowing down on fish, wondering where Noel got to. Speak of the devil, Ginyas spots him walking up the path with a very grumpy-looking local. Noel cheerfully explains he found this guy in the scrapyard, much to the man's obvious annoyance. Holding up his own grilled fish, he says he got hungry and caught it right there in the bay. This sends the local into a full-blown panic, absolutely screaming his head off. He grabs Noel and tries to force him to spit it out, yelling that the local fish are contaminated. Our boy, looking only slightly queasy, just holds up a hand to stop him. With a confident smile, Noel explains that he is actually totally fine eating polluted stuff. Both Ginyas and the local can only stare, their brains completely failing to compute that sentence. A flashback reveals his sheltered prince days when he got curious about the toxic fish outside the castle. His first taste test naturally ended with him nearly dying on the ground, a solid scientific method, so he just kept eating them while developing antidotes, building immunity through sheer, reckless self-poisoning. And now he is proudly resistant, leaving his new friends looking like their souls just left their bodies. This mermaid and the turtle kid are practically begging everyone not to try this at home because it is insane. Ginyas, ever the professional, cuts in to ask him how the actual plan went. This scene shifts to her standing in an office, formally reporting to an official. And of course it is Washa, who sneers at her absolutely insane request to retake the mock battle. Smugly, he informs her that he has already reported her as dead to the fleet admiral, so it is a little late. But then a nasty little thought crosses his mind and he seems to reconsider the possibilities. Washa agrees to the retest and Ginyas thanks him, completely oblivious that this is just another trap. Washa, of course, adds a little condition to his generous offer. This deal is simple. If she loses this time, her father's entire fortune gets seized by the military. He gloats that only the superior deserve such wealth, not some loser who cannot even pass a test. And if she refuses, he casually implies another accident might befall her village, pure blackmail. With no other choice, Ginyas quietly agrees to his terms, completely trapped. Back with her friends, she clenches her fists, announcing that the rematch is officially on. Her big problem now is that her dad's ship is gone and she is worried about using a substitute vessel. But Noel just smiles, holding the turtle kid as the harpy materializes behind him with a plan. He suddenly grabs her wrist, ready to drag her into his next brilliant, probably insane idea. And with a come on, he pulls a very confused Ginyas along for the ride. This whole crew follows him through the woods, heading toward his secret project. Noel points dramatically into the distance, telling her to just look. Her eyes go wide with absolute disbelief at what she is seeing, because docked at the pier is a massive, fully rigged pirate ship looking ready for battle. Ginyas can only stammer its name, the Golden Lynx, while Noel just beams. He explains that since they needed a pirate ship, he just built one from a raft and scrap parts. Casually. Despite the incredible gift, Ginyas is still peeking around a mast, clearly terrified. She turns to Noel, her voice full of doubt as she starts to explain her biggest fear, which is that even on this amazing ship, her seasickness is still knocking her flat on her back. She is grateful but terrified she will just get this new ship destroyed too, reliving her trauma. Just as she is spiraling, the local from the scrapyard calls out to her, and behind him is the entire village, all geared up and ready for a fight. Ginyas is completely stunned, asking why everyone is here. This harpy casually admits they overheard her entire sob story the night before. Privacy is a suggestion. Nadham explains that when they heard she was reviving the pirates, they rallied everyone to help. This local guy seethes, realizing Wash's plan was to steal her fortune and crush the village. Noel, holding the turtle kid, just smiles and says this is their counterplan. He then strikes a pose, announcing that they will be her crew for the mock battle. Ginya's brain just completely shuts down, unable to process this level of chaotic support. A second later, the shock finally registers and she absolutely loses her mind. She grabs Noel, frantically explaining that the crew is already assigned by Washa himself. But the local just gives a thumbs up from a shed where Wash's crew is tied up and taking a nap. Ginya still hesitates, bringing up her crippling seasickness one last time. This turtle kid pops up, telling her there is nothing to worry about. He explains they used magic to stabilize the entire ship so it will not even rock. She looks around, finally realizing the deck beneath her feet is perfectly still. Turning to the local, she says they are all just doing whatever they want. He just grins, saying that is the sea cat way, and offers her a captain's hat. Her hand slowly reaches out, touching the familiar cat and crossbones emblem. Overwhelmed, she turns to Noel, finally ready to accept their insane, wonderful help. Clutching the hat to her chest, she tearfully thanks them for everything. Noel, with his whole chaotic crew behind him, hypes her up, promising victory. Putting on the hat, she fully embraces her role as captain of this misfit crew. With a fist in the air, she declares that she will borrow their strength for this fight. This entire village erupts in cheers, officially christening the new Ginya's pirate crew. This scene shifts, showing Noel on a raft, having just made a new outfit for the turtle kid. Nadham decides to go humanoid to try on the new threads. This transformation results in a full-on girl draped over a very, very startled Noel. He wakes up on the dock, completely flustered and hoping that was just a weird dream. Meanwhile, the harpy shows off some berries she grew, explaining they do not have to worry about food. Turns out these magical berries also double as soap, which is convenient, I guess. Nadham explains the islanders used to use all sorts of weird fruits to clean themselves of garbage and grime. This apparently led to a full-blown garbage-worshipping cult, much to Noel's absolute bewilderment. Thanks to all the new resources, they can finally filter water and cook proper meals. This harpy wonders why he is bothering to put materials away since they will just need them again soon. He starts to explain, but a flock of crows just swoops in and starts stealing everything. Crying, Noel explains that wild birds keep stealing his supplies to build their nests. The struggle is real. His next project is a magic-powered grill, but he admits he lacks the juice to start it. This harpy admits she does not know how to use magic either, and Nadham just tells him to stop. Nadham explains that as an old-timer, he has no idea how these modern magical devices even work. Nadham explains that some magic-wielding jerk went on a rampage, which is why the islanders lost all faith. With that settled, Noel announces they are all boarding the ship to get the magic cannon working. This turtle kid immediately questions if a giant cannon is really necessary, hoping they will not need it. But the harpy argues they need some serious firepower since they cannot guarantee a safe trip. This triggers a flashback to Noel getting chased by giant monsters. Just another Tuesday for him, apparently. Meanwhile, back on the main island, Ginya has officially returned to make her report. Washa, ever the creep, is spying from a window, confirming he heard about her rematch request. A high-ranking admiral grants her appeal but gives the order. If she fails this time, she is out for good. His subordinate bows out, promising to deliver the final results of the test. This aide's hand clenches a device which snaps shut with some very ominous finality, and Washa is just radiating pure villain energy, convinced there is no way sea garbage can pass. He glances around his fancy office, already counting the fortune he is about to seize. But just then a soldier bursts into the room, completely ruining his villain monologue. This soldier, looking panicked, reports that Ginya's entire crew roster has been mysteriously replaced. This news completely short-circuits Wash's brain, causing him to drop his pen cap in shock. Cut to the docks where the massive golden lynx is waiting, fully prepped for the battle. On deck, a pocket watch ticks ominously, signaling the start of the test is just moments away. A crewmate calls out her name, letting her know the moment has finally arrived. With a steady hand, Ginya adjusts her new captain's coat, her expression pure resolve. She spins around, fully embracing the pirate life with a hearty ahoy mates. The glow-up is real. This crew prepares the massive pirate ship, the Golden Lynx, for battle. A banner with a cat skull and crossbones proudly flies, signaling their departure. This Jolly Roger, featuring a fierce cat face, waves from the ship's sails. This magic cannon is ready, its eye-like orb glowing with anticipation for the fight. Ginya's, now fully embracing her captain persona, scans the horizon with a spyglass. A rival naval ship, the second ranked in the academy, appears on the choppy seas. This rival's captain, a stern-faced officer, observes the approaching pirate vessel. A sinister smile plays on the rival captain's lips as he anticipates the upcoming clash. He acknowledges the arrival of the Golden Lynx, recognizing it as Ginya's ship. This rival captain notes that the battle has finally begun, the stakes are high. This crew is shown in a training area with one person running and another panting. This rival captain stands atop the magic cannon, ready to give orders. This magic cannon is aimed, its strange, spiky projectile ready to fire. This rival captain raises his hand, signaling the start of the attack. A blast from the magic cannon streaks across the water towards Ginya's ship. This Golden Lynx is hit by an incoming projectile, sails tearing. Another blast narrowly misses the Golden Lynx, creating a massive splash. Ginya's in her pirate captain attire shouts orders to her crew with fierce determination. A villager at the helm steers the ship with intense focus, gripping the wheel tightly. This golden lynx maneuvers through the water, dodging incoming fire. This golden lynx gets absolutely hammered by another shot, wood splintering across the deck. Her rival is completely stunned, wondering how they even fired back from that range. Ginya's just coolly explains that it is practical combat magic, get used to it, buddy. Elsewhere, Washa is absolutely losing it, screaming that they are breaking the rules again. She stands firm, however, declaring she was ready for this from the moment she accepted the rematch. This triggers a flashback to an officer accusing her of breaking the rules in a past test. That same officer, a woman with cat ears, now suspects Washa was blackmailing Ginya's all along. Her hands clench in anger as the pieces of the blackmail scheme finally click into place. Back on the rival ship, they are powering up another volley, 3 magic cannons glowing ominously. A lookout screams that the next attack is already on its way, no time to breathe. Ginya's eyes narrow with intense focus, not a single trace of fear left in her. Without missing a beat, she barks an order to the helmsman to meet the enemy head-on. Nadam the turtle kid is panicking, asking if she is seriously planning to tank the hit. 3 magical projectiles streak across the water, aimed right for the golden lynx. But our girl just smirks, revealing their ship is packing way more magical armor than it looks. With the wind against them, she activates some kind of magical banner on the mast. A massive magical barrier suddenly erupts in front of the ship's bow. Her plan is to use it to completely neutralize the incoming magical blast's power. This enemy shots slam into the water, their force totally diffused before they even touch the hull. This rival captain is just speechless, realizing she perfectly calculated his attack's power. On deck, Ginya stands her ground, her misfit crew totally fired up behind her. One of the villagers is just blown away, saying it is like she literally saw the future. This local from the yard chimes in, confirming she absolutely called their every move. This triggers a flashback to her childhood where her foresight saved her old crew countless times. He gets real serious, recalling how her father, Francis, used to talk about her gift. How she could read the sky and the sea, predicting everything from the currents. By reading the wind, the clouds, and even the birds, she could see what was coming. Turns out her father, the legendary pirate, taught her everything about naval tactics and enemy psychology. Her power is just insane situational awareness, processing every detail to predict the enemy's next move. It is less a sixth sense and more a supercomputer brain running battle simulations in real time. And now that her seasickness is gone, this is the real Ginya's in action. Peering through her spyglass, she watches the enemy regrouping on their ship. She notes they are already prepping another volley, pouring magic into their cannons. With a hand raised, she orders her own crew to advance straight at them but to stay on high alert. This golden lynx pulls up alongside the rival ship, a bold and aggressive move. Her rival captain completely loses his cool, screaming at his helmsman to outmaneuver her. But Ginya's is already 5 steps ahead, calmly noting that if this is a race, he is already lost. Suddenly, a set of massive, magically powered oars extends from the golden lynx's hull, and with a huge surge of speed, they leave the naval vessel completely in their wake. Now in the perfect position, she points and gives the final order: starboard gunners fire. This rival captain is completely losing it, screaming at his crew to do something. From the golden lynx, a full broadside erupts, aimed right at the naval vessel. Those cannons tear into the rival ship's hull, sending splinters flying everywhere. Turns out they were not firing cannonballs, but giant gobs of black paint redecorating the enemy's tower. A crewmate celebrates the direct hit, completely ecstatic they pulled it off. With a confident smirk, Ginya's orders them to maintain course and press the attack. That victory is short-lived, though, as her eyes widen in shock at what is happening now. On the enemy ship stands that cat-eared officer, and somehow all that paint has just vanished. Without a second to explain, Ginya screams at her crew to get down now. Her order comes just as the ship's main mast snaps and collapses onto the deck. This celebrating crewmate is now just screaming, barely dodging the falling wreckage. In an instant, the golden lynx is dead in the water, smoking and heavily damaged. Back on the rival ship, their captain scrambles for a damage report, asking if everyone's okay. On her own deck, Ginya's admits she let her guard down, completely falling for their trap. Meanwhile, her rival is having his main character moment, basking in the cheers of his crew. He smirks, explaining he knew she'd read his frontal assault, so he planned to strike from behind all along. His big reveal: he'd installed hidden cannons on the stern, a perfect counter to her aggressive flanking. An official from the academy calls over, expressing relief that there were no casualties in the attack. His relief fades quickly, though, as he grimly states this is the worst possible outcome for her. Because with their mast and hull destroyed by that last volley, the Golden Lynx is officially out of the fight. With the ship crippled, the helmsman tells Ginyas they are sitting ducks if the enemy fires again. Her entire crew is now in a full-blown panic, running around the deck in total chaos. One of her mates desperately asks what they are supposed to do, but Ginyas is just sweating. She clutches a small orb, admitting her original plan was just to run out the clock for a win. But now that they are dead in the water, getting caught is just a matter of time. These villagers are freaking out, realizing they do not even have real cannons to fight back with. That is when the yard worker confirms their weapons were basically just fancy paint guns, totally useless now. Even the harpy is losing her cool, grabbing a crewmate in pure, unadulterated frustration. A crewmate clenches his fist, absolutely furious at their completely hopeless situation. He starts ranting about needing to find some garbage to use as a weapon, anything at all. And that is when Ginya's gets a brilliant, absolutely unhinged idea: garbage. Her first mate just stares back, completely baffled by her sudden, cryptic outburst. On the rival ship, a lookout peers through his spyglass, equally confused by what he is seeing, because Ginya's crew is now frantically pushing the entire broken mast off the side of their ship. They literally just dump all the heavy wreckage into the sea, a bold, desperate gambit. Her rival's captain immediately figures it out. She is ditching weight to pick up speed. He smirks, realizing her new plan is to just outrun him until the time limit expires. And it is actually working. The light and golden lynx starts pulling away from the naval vessel. A crewmate calls out her name, and Ginya's just flashes a confident thumbs up in return. With a determined look, she tells her crew to just hold on a little longer and keep pushing forward. Ginya's is suddenly startled by a strange buzzing sound coming from her hand. It is a magical communication scroll, and someone's calling her mid-battle of all times. On the other end is her rival, condescendingly asking if she is enjoying their little chase. He stands on his own deck, gloating as his ship finally closes the distance. With the golden lynx crippled and smoking, it is only a matter of time before they are overtaken. Her rival smugly suggests she just try to run out the clock since her ship is basically useless now. Ginya's just listens silently, a worried look on her face as he keeps talking. He points out the obvious: their weapons are a joke and their defeat is absolutely guaranteed. Apparently Washa ordered him to sink them, but he is feeling generous enough not to kill trash. Grand offer: just surrender now, abandon ship, and he will graciously let them live. With her face hidden in shadow, Ginya's clutches the communicator, processing his ultimatum. This guy just keeps monologuing, completely sure of his victory and her despair. But then Ginya smirks, telling him they have weapons asterisk under the ship too. Her rival is just completely lost, repeating her words in total confusion: under. Because floating right in their path is all the wreckage they dumped earlier. It is a massive, tangled mess of wood, barrels, and broken parts, a floating minefield of pure junk. One of his lookouts realizes that the mast they ditched is now a massive, tangled obstacle. This rival captain absolutely loses it, screaming about what she thinks she is doing with all this garbage. Ginya's just calmly tells him he is about to find out exactly what it does. Then she gives the order to her gunners: target the trash floating right under the enemy ship. This golden lynx's cannons fire, launching a volley of literal garbage at the floating wreckage. It all slams into the water, creating a massive chain reaction of exploding debris. Her rival gets completely drenched, screaming about how this is all just futile resistance. On the deck below, his crew just looks up in total confusion as junk starts raining down. Because Ginya's plan was to use the water explosion to launch the wreckage onto asterisk their ship. Suddenly, the enemy crew is getting absolutely pelted by flying barrels and broken planks. Even the captain is getting bonked, screaming that it is literally a rain of trash. One of his poor crewmates gets absolutely flattened by a rogue barrel, screaming in shock. And Ginya's is not letting up, immediately ordering a second volley to keep the pressure on. A second barrage hits the water, sending another wave of junk flying right at them. Their captain is now on his knees, complaining they cannot even move with all this trash. His monologue gets cut short by a bottle straight to the face, a truly poetic moment. And it finally clicks for him: she did not dump the mast for speed, she dumped it for ammo. Meanwhile, one of Ginya's crew activates some kind of magical octopus card mid-chaos. This result is a deck full of unconscious sailors buried under a mountain of junk. Back on the communicator, Ginya smugly explains her rain of garbage strategy to her rival. For a crew used to broadsides, an attack raining down from above was completely unexpected. Her first mate is just blown away, praising her for coming up with such an insane plan. She just tips her hat, saying she got the idea to weaponize trash from her own crew. And her first mate can only give a massive thumbs up, totally in awe of his captain. Her rival is on his knees, communicator in hand, just processing his humiliating defeat by garbage. Sitting in the trash, he admits there was no way to predict such an insane, nonsensical tactic. His entire crew is out cold, buried under junk, as he laments being beaten by literal sea trash. With his pride shattered, he cannot even bring himself to laugh at how pathetic this all is. Ginya's and her first mate listen in, letting him stew in his garbage-fueled defeat for a moment. But she is not done, telling him over the communicator that she has one last thing to say. He just asks what she wants, probably expecting her to gloat some more. Instead, Ginya thanks him for defying Washa's orders and intentionally missing with his attack magic. This rival captain's eyes go wide. He has been completely exposed. She explains that his cannons could have sunk them, but he deliberately aimed to cripple, not destroy. This proves he has not completely thrown away his soldier's pride just to follow orders. With a smile, she calls him an honorable soldier and her greatest rival, a moment of pure respect. He just slams the communicator shut, completely flustered by her words. Clutching his head, he realizes she saw through his every move, even his secret act of mercy. His crewmates help him up, accepting that their loss means they will all be expelled from the academy. But he tells them not to worry, saying he will take the fall and report to Washa himself. He drops his weapon, declaring that the failure to eliminate Ginya's is his responsibility alone. Then he grabs a white flag, insisting he will be the only one to face expulsion for this. And just like that, he raises the flag of surrender, officially ending the battle. Ginya's and her crew can only stare in disbelief as the white flag goes up. This rival captain is on the communicator with Washa, basically admitting Ginya's just graduated at his expense. Meanwhile, Ginya's and her entire crew are going absolutely wild, celebrating their hard-fought victory. With the battle officially over, the two ships sail alongside each other under a flag of truce. Her first mate is completely ecstatic, pumping his fist and shouting her name in triumph. Ginya's gets all teary-eyed, humbly saying it was a team effort, a real class act. She then looks over at her rival's ship where he is just standing by the railing. This guy just stares back with a calm, accepting look on his face, ready for the consequences, but his expression suddenly shifts to surprise as he looks up at something. He is back on the line with Washa, and judging by his face, the news is not good. On the other end, Washa coldly reminds him of the deal: lose to pirates and you are expelled. This rival captain is just sweating bullets, completely terrified of his commander's wrath. He tries to argue, accepting the terms but clearly wanting to add a condition. Turning away, he declares that the failure is his and his alone as the captain. He begs Washa to only expel him and to spare his crew from any punishment. Washa's response is just a single dismissive word: trash, absolutely ice cold. This rival captain is stunned as Washa tells him that discussion is officially over. But then Washa himself appears on deck, saying he has changed his mind about the expulsion. His rival can only stare in disbelief, calling out his commander's title in confusion, and that is when he notices Washa is holding a weapon, looking anything but merciful. This rival's eyes go wide with horror as he realizes what is really about to happen. But just as things calm down, a third massive warship pulls up alongside them. This just got way more complicated. This rival captain is absolutely floored, staring at his communicator in total disbelief. On the Golden Lynx, Ginya's and her first mate can only watch in horror as the situation escalates, because Washa's ship just opens fire, blowing a massive hole right through his subordinate's vessel. Desperate, the rival captain screams for his crew to jump into the sea as their ship is torn apart. A colossal explosion then completely obliterates the naval ship, no mercy whatsoever. Ginya's and her first mate brace themselves against the shockwave from the sudden, violent blast. She screams out her rival's name, absolutely horrified by what she just witnessed. But her first mate points, telling her to look at what is happening now. Washa's warship sails through the wreckage, leaving the Golden Lynx as the only target left. With its previous victim destroyed, the massive vessel turns its attention directly towards them. On its deck stands Washa himself, looking every bit the unhinged commander, ready for round two. Ginya's and her crew immediately recognize it as Washa's personal flagship. They are so screwed. Meanwhile, the rival captain clings to a piece of floating debris, having barely survived the explosion. Washa's just ranting about how expulsion is too lenient for those who dirty his hands. He points right at Ginya's, snapping his fingers and declaring she will not be getting away. His ship then deploys a whole row of magical cannons, ready to finish the job properly this time. One of his subordinates nervously approaches, calling out to his commander with a question. This poor guy asks if it is really okay to do this in a mock battle, especially to a former admiral's subordinate. Washa just places a hand on his shoulder, and you can just feel the "shut up or you are next" energy. Washa leans in, explaining to his subordinate that this is just necessary evil to stop pirates, a real for the greater good speech from a total psycho. This poor guy can only stammer out a terrified agreement, because arguing with a man-bird that unhinged is a career-ending move. With that pep talk over, Washa's flagship unleashes a full-scale magical barrage right at the Golden Lynx. Meanwhile, the rival captain and his crew are just trying not to drown in the wreckage of their own ship. He looks on in absolute horror, realizing what is happening to Ginya's crew because of him. This Golden Lynx gets absolutely shredded by the attack, explosions ripping across its deck and sails. From the water, her rival grabs his communicator, screaming for Ginya's to just run and save herself. But Ginya's refuses, saying there is no way in hell she is leaving him behind to die. She realizes this is not about him anymore. Washa is trying to silence everyone who saw what he did. Tipping her hat, Ginya's declares that helping people is the pride of her pirate crew and they are not backing down. Her rival is just stunned into silence, completely moved by her insane, suicidal bravery. Her first mate is freaking out, warning her the ship absolutely cannot take another hit like that. Suddenly, her communicator buzzes again, and it is a call from Washa himself. On the other end, the commander smirks, condescendingly asking if she is enjoying her little pirate game. Ginya's just listens, her expression hardening as he starts his villain monologue. He muses that he expected her to run, but is grateful she is making herself an easy target instead. Her eyes go wide with fury, finally understanding the true depth of his cruelty. Washa gloats that her sticking around makes it so much easier for him to clean up his mess, meaning her rival. As her ship gets blasted again, he asks how it feels to know her heroics are just getting everyone killed. With a truly terrifying grin, he promises that her filthy pride will just get them all scattered across the sea like garbage. Ginya's is completely flustered, stammering that his whole monologue is just plain wrong. Her first mate chimes in, reminding her that dumping trash in the sea is wrong, a perfect callback. But Ginya's clenches her fist over a magic seal, her resolve hardening in an instant. She turns to her crew, including a winged ally, announcing that she has a plan. In response, her first mate holds up a magical item, asking everyone to lend him their strength. Back in the present, the Golden Lynx is getting absolutely pummeled, smoke pouring from its deck. Washa just cackles from his flagship, mocking their inability to do anything but sink. He orders his crew to fire again, intent on wiping them off the face of the ocean for good. Another barrage slams into the water right next to Ginya's already crippled ship. This hull is blasted open, splinters flying everywhere as the vessel begins to break apart. But suddenly, a massive cage-like object is dropped from the sky right towards Wash's ship. It is their winged crewmate, now acting as some kind of living kite hovering over the battlefield. Washa and his subordinate can only stare up in utter disbelief. What fresh hell is this? Down in the water, her rival and his crew are now cheering her on from their lifeboats. This just makes Washa even angrier, screaming at his crew to sink the pathetic raft. Because Ginya's and her first mate are now on a tiny wooden platform zipping across the waves. She is shouting orders, telling her winged crewmate to make a hard 70-degree turn. This winged ally banks sharply, pulling the line taut and whipping the raft around with incredible speed. They have basically turned their crewmate into a living engine for a high-speed water-skiing raft. And now they are just circling Washa's warship, running rings around the giant vessel, an absolutely insane counterattack. Washa is absolutely losing his mind, trying to figure out what Ginya's insane plan could possibly be. Ginya just stares ahead, focused and sweating. This is a 1 in a million shot and she knows it. In a quick flashback, she reveals her grand strategy to the crew, pulling back a tarp with a grin. Underneath is a massive, busted magic cannon and she declares they are going to fight back with it. Her winged ally and another crewmate are justifiably shocked by this very broken-looking plan. Ginya explains that if they can fire this thing, they can take down Wash's entire fleet. But a tiny turtle crewmate points out the obvious. The cannon is wrecked and they have no parts. With a confident smirk, Ginya says, "Oh yes, we do," because of course she has a plan for that. She reveals that her rival's cannon was made of the perfect materials to fix their own. And thanks to Wash's little temper tantrum, all those parts are now floating conveniently in the sea. This winged crewmate is tasked with flying out and grabbing all the necessary components from the wreckage. Another crewmate will use her powers to help guide the flyer and dodge any incoming attacks. A tiny golem-like ally is told to prep the cannon mount with all the magic it can muster. And once the parts are close, her first mate will use his own skill to reel them in. He activates his magic bracelet, literally recycling a cannon barrel right out of the ocean. This salvaged part flies toward them and magically reassembles itself onto their cannon base. Back in the present, their winged ally pulls the raft, which now sports a fully repaired super cannon. This whole ridiculous scene is shown from above, a girl being used as an engine for a floating cannon platform. Washa watches through his spyglass, finally realizing they are salvaging parts to build a weapon. He snaps his spyglass shut in pure fury, completely humiliated by their garbage-picking counterattack. Washa, having finally had enough, orders his crew to pour all their magic into the main cannon. He has figured it out, they are collecting parts, and one crucial piece is right in his line of fire. With a truly unhinged grin, he decides to just vaporize them the second they go for the bait. One of his men points out their own escort ship is in the way, but Washa just calls it a convenient blind spot. And with that, he gives the order, unleashing a massive magical blast from his flagship's cannon. A colossal beam of pure energy rips across the ocean, aimed right at the wreckage. It is heading straight for their winged crewmate, who is still playing the role of a living kaitenjin. Ginya's is horrified, screaming that he is firing on his own men just to get to them. But her winged ally just grits her teeth, reaching out with a determined look on her face. She activates some kind of magic ring, targeting the very cannon part Washa was using as bait. This salvaged piece flies out of the water, pulled directly towards her by the magical force. Washa's blast slams into the ocean just a split second too late, missing both her and the part. A massive column of water erupts from the impact, showing just how close a call that was. From the wreckage, the rival's crew can only stare in stunned silence at the near miss. Washa, however, is just laughing maniacally, clearly enjoying the absolute chaos. He throws his arms wide, gloating that it was a nice try, but garbage is still just garbage. But then it starts to rain, and through the downpour, a familiar silhouette appears. Because their super cannon is now fully assembled, with Ginya's and a mermaid-like ally ready to fire. Ginya's glares back at Washa's ship, her expression screaming it is payback time. Her winged crewmate shares the same look, they are all in on this one final shot. Her mermaid-like ally gives a final, determined look, it is all or nothing now. Washa, on the other hand, is having a slightly less composed reaction to this turn of events. With a furious scream, Ginya's gives the one and only order that matters, fire. Their glorious Junkheap cannon charges up a massive sphere of pure magical energy. A colossal beam then erupts, screaming across the water straight for Washa's flagship. This recoil from the shot nearly throws them off their tiny raft. This thing has some kick. It slams directly into the warship's hull, tearing through the sails and main mast. A massive explosion then engulfs the center of the ship in a ball of fire and lightning. This blast continues to rip the vessel apart, sending splinters and debris flying everywhere. Multiple explosions chain react across the deck, utterly obliterating the warship from the inside out. One of Washa's men screams the obvious, telling his commander the ship is done for. Washa can only watch, his hand trembling as his precious custom-built flagship is totaled. He was going to use pirate treasure to upgrade it and rule the navy, so much for that plan. And now he is just having a complete meltdown, screaming about how a pathetic raft beat him. In a fit of pure cowardice, he tries to abandon ship, leaving his own men behind. His entire crew is forced into lifeboats, watching their mighty vessel sink beneath the waves. But the rival captain's crew is going absolutely wild, cheering their hearts out for Ginya's. Even her rival is just stunned into silence, muttering her name in total awe of what she just did. Ginya's and her first mate share a well-deserved fist bump for pulling off the impossible. This whole crew joins in, celebrating a victory won with teamwork, guts, and a whole lot of garbage. After the battle, the first mate complains they need a bigger water distiller for their growing crew. Ginya's, however, casually mentions her dad's ship has a magical auto distiller they can just use. Her first mate is stunned she can use magic tech, but for her, it is just a normal household appliance. This rest of the crew celebrates wildly, while Ginya's just looks confused by their extreme poverty. In a sudden flashback, a cat-eared woman stretches while noting the winged ally does not trust her. This winged ally then gets uncomfortably close, asking if the cat girl is even listening to her. He wakes up from the dream, and the turtle on his shoulder reminds him that Ginya's is a cat person. This triggers a memory of someone getting way too into cat sniffing, much to the winged ally's horror. We then see the first mate's past, using his recycling powers to rebuild his firebombed hometown. He is shown single-handedly repairing entire buildings, putting the whole neighborhood back together. His turtle companion worries he is overexerting himself just to help everyone out, but he just brushes it off, insisting he is fine while looking like he is about to collapse. Meanwhile, some long-nosed official is having a complete meltdown over an application from Ginya's. He is absolutely livid that a pirate's daughter would dare apply to their prestigious naval academy. Her father, however, calmly explains that her training will make her a huge asset to the nation. A younger Ginya's enthusiastically agrees, totally on board with joining the Navy to get stronger. Back in the present, the townspeople he saved are now offering to help him build a ship. One of the townspeople gets way too personal, asking if he will take responsibility for Ginya's. He boldly declares he met her passion with his own, leaving the crowd completely stunned. This entire crowd immediately misinterprets this as a hot romance, a truly spectacular misunderstanding. We jump into a flashback where the first mate's mother is screaming his name in terror, because our boy is lying in the rubble looking up at her completely dazed. She rushes to his side, cradling him and asking what in the world just happened. Later in bed, he just stares at his magic bracelet, trying to process the disaster. He explains he was just a curious kid, testing out his new powers with a friend. So he tried his recycling magic on a garbage cart and things got a little out of hand. By which I mean he created a massive junk cart installation that is now blocking the town gate. An overhead view confirms his little experiment has completely barricaded the main road. All the townspeople, including his mom, are just frozen in absolute horrified silence. This shock quickly curdles into fear as they whisper about his dangerous ability, but the kid just does not get it. Why is everyone suddenly so scared of him? This crowd closes in on them, demanding to know what he did to their town, and with a gasp, he jolts awake in bed. It was all just a nightmare, except someone is there, and it is their winged crewmate watching over him as he slept. He clutches his head, the painful memories of that day still feeling way too real. That dream dredged up how everyone shunned him, calling his unique skill a curse, but looking up, he just sees the winged ally leaning over him with genuine concern. She gives him a bright smile, cheerfully wishing him a good morning. Our boy is completely flustered, asking what she is even doing in his room. His turtle companion explains she was just worried sick because he would not wake up. Our boy is absolutely wrecked after the fight, passed out cold on the raft next to his sleeping crewmate. His hand twitches as he starts to come to, the memories slowly returning. Back in bed, he thanks the winged ally for watching over him while he was out, and she just melts when he gives her a reassuring head pat, so wholesome. His turtle companion clears its throat, ready to drop some very important news on them. Because a shadowy official announces their mock battle was a success, granting them a privateer license. This first mate is just so relieved, celebrating that Ginya's is finally a real licensed captain. He pictures her in full pirate glory, ready to become a legend just like her dad. But the turtle sadly points out that with her dream achieved, his own role is now over. That thought hits our boy like a ton of bricks, and he just stares blankly. So the winged ally has to spell it out for him. This means he cannot stay with Ginya's anymore. He is completely stunned, asking if this is really where they have to part ways. Trying to be noble, he says it cannot be helped since Ginya's finally got what she wanted. But then he reveals the real problem. He is an exiled criminal, and his presence would ruin her. Just being on her crew could get that hard-won privateer license completely revoked by the Navy. This mood in the room just plummets, with the turtle even hiding under the covers. This is rough. So with a new resolve, he gets out of bed and points to his packed bag. Grabbing his stuff, he has clearly made a decision about what comes next. He declares he will build a whole new maritime city so he can meet her again as an equal. And the winged ally just smiles, totally on board with his ridiculously grand new plan. With his new goal set, our boy immediately gets to work, declaring he will rebuild from scratch. Meanwhile, Ginya's is standing alone on a massive stone pier looking out at the water. She quietly says her father's name, clearly wrestling with something big. It seems she is trying to convince herself that this outcome is what she really wanted. Just then, the first mate spots her while hauling a cart full of wood. He asks what she is doing all the way out here, the winged ally peeking from behind him. Ginya's is completely startled, addressing him with a super formal title. He kneels down to her level, asking what is on her mind. Her hands are clasped tight, betraying just how nervous she really is. After a moment, she finally works up the courage to ask him something completely out of left field. She wants to know if she can join him on his journey. This request absolutely fries the circuits of both him and the winged ally. Our boy is just left completely speechless, unable to process what he just heard. A flock of birds dramatically takes to the sky because of course it does. He finally asks what she is talking about, reminding her she just got her privateer license. But Ginya just stares back with this look of unshakable resolve. She explains that because of him, she was able to get her father's ship back. And now, as the official heir to the sea cat name, she wants to fulfill her dad's dream. He asks what that dream was and she shyly confirms it is her new mission. Her father's grand, unfulfilled ambition was to petition the kingdom for a massive garbage cleanup. She explains her dad, the sea cat, was basically a state-sponsored pirate who got tons of official support. His big goal was to get the nation's help to clean up the ocean pollution plaguing their home. Our boy just listens intently, taking in this massive revelation about her family's past. But Jinya's trails off, her expression showing that the plan hit a major, predictable snag. In a flashback, she is seen pitching her grand idea to a stuffy naval official after graduation. And the guy, oozing with condescension, basically tells her it is a cute idea but impossible. Jinya's is completely floored by the instant, total shutdown of her life's dream. This official then lays out the kingdom's dirty little secret, turning his back on her. Turns out their nation's massive industrial power comes with an equally massive waste disposal problem, so they just dump all their trash into the sea and it is only getting worse every year. A whole council of corrupt old dudes only cares about their bottom line, not the environment. Anyone who tried to blow the whistle on this mess just mysteriously disappeared, real subtle. This official essentially told her to give up, completely crushing a younger Jinya's spirit. Back in the present, she admits with a wry smile that she always expected to be rejected. This whole conspiracy is a bit much for our boy to process all at once. He asks why she'd give up since getting the kingdom's help was her only shot, right? She quietly admits that was true, until she met him. Traveling together gave her a whole new perspective on the problem, she explains. She saw how he tackled the garbage issue head-on and wondered why such a person was exiled. And she realized what this trash-filled world truly needs is not a government program, it is him. Our boy is totally flustered, insisting he is not that special. But Ginya quietly disagrees, her hands clasped behind her back. She explains his recycling power gave her a new life after being treated like garbage. So now she wants to be the one to help him achieve his dream. Her tail twitches nervously as she asks if he'd be okay with that, because she wants to stay with him from now on, a full-on confession. This first mate just stares, completely blindsided by her request. Ginya just looks up at him, waiting for his answer with this determined gaze. As he tries to find the words, the winged ally watches from the side, and she is about to step in, but then a shout from the ocean interrupts them. He turns to see a ship approaching, and it is full of familiar faces. It is the townspeople he saved, waving and cheering for him from the deck. Both he and Ginya are stunned to see the entire village showing up. Turns out they borrowed a navy ship and salvaged the wreckage of her dad's old vessel. This crew on the pier announces they have enough materials to build homes for everyone. He just stares at the massive pile of recycled parts, completely overwhelmed. Our boy can barely process it, asking if they really mean everyone. This lead townsman gives a big thumbs up, saying his passion inspired them all to join him. This sudden arrival of an entire fan club has left him absolutely speechless. Then one of the girls admits she told everyone he was leaving and they all just decided to come too. Still reeling, he asks Ginya if she is really sure about all this, because his mind flashes back to being the ominous prince, shunned and feared by everyone. Panicked, he warns her that associating with him will just make them all wanted criminals. But the lead townsman just slaps him on the back, telling him to cut the crap. This guy just laughs, declaring they are all sea cats now and could not care less about being called pirates. Ginya just looks at him, completely moved by this sudden, fierce show of loyalty. She tells him everyone here feels the exact same way she does. Another villager chimes in that it is not the kingdom that will fix this trash world, it is him. This leader agrees, saying his conviction gave them all a reason to hope again. And Ginya lands the final blow, telling him nobody here thinks he is some kind of curse. His eye goes wide, the sheer shock of being accepted finally hitting him. A slow, relieved smile spreads across his face as the weight of his past finally lifts. Ginya thanks everyone on his behalf, her hands clasped in pure gratitude. Then she turns back to him with a huge grin, basically asking, "So, is that a yes?" In response, he holds out his hand, his magic bracelet flaring to life. With his arm raised, he officially welcomes every single one of them to the crew. And just like that, the work begins with someone walking a plank over the salvaged wood. Everyone pitches in, carrying supplies while the winged ally zips around overhead. During a quick water break, the turtle companion waddles over with a very important question. This turtle points out that now that they are building a whole new nation, they probably need a name for it. Our boy taps his head, trying to come up with a catchy name for their new nation, and suddenly inspiration strikes with a classic lightbulb moment. He proudly suggests Super Hyper Fun Max Recycle Nation, a name so bad it is a work of art. This guy is just radiating pure, unadulterated confidence in this terrible, terrible idea. Ginya and the winged ally pitch their own awful names, one of which includes Living Dead, and our boy's soul just leaves his body. This brainstorming session is a complete disaster, leaving him clutching his head in agony. Finally, the winged ally cuts in, suggesting they just name it Noah after him, Noel. Both Ginya and the turtle seem to be on board with this much simpler, saner idea. A huge smile spreads across his face. Yeah, Noah is easy to remember and actually sounds good. With his arms raised in triumph, he officially makes the decision. Standing before their newly constructed floating city, he prepares to make the grand announcement, declaring that from now on their maritime nation shall be known as Noah. Ginya's is just in awe that their little raft became this massive ark, and he confirms it is almost complete. Then we flash back to a little girl named Rose Arcane, age 5, calling out to her prince, and we see a much younger Nokel Zeger Arcane, age 14, looking completely flustered. Turns out little Rose has a habit of following him literally everywhere, including the bathroom's zero boundaries. She just puffs out her cheeks, completely unrepentant about her clingy behavior. In response, she just full-on tackles him while screaming that he is being mean for wanting a moment alone. This two of them are just a mess of flailing limbs and shouting outside the castle walls. A few years later, an 11-year-old Rose suggests His Highness should probably go study at the Imperial Academy. Flashback to a 20-year-old Nokel, looking dead serious while working on some kind of wind-powered contraption. Turns out he is in a massive junkyard, and Rose is telling him it is pointless for a cursed prince to even try. His brother Zeus's voice echoes in his head, telling him to leave ruling to the professionals since he is not king material. Rose just casually drops that he has a completely rotten personality, zero sugarcoating. She then launches into a lecture about how dignity is inherited, not something you can just work for. He just grips his invention tighter, clearly getting fed up with this whole conversation. With his back turned, he tells her to leave, warning that being seen with him will ruin her reputation. But Rose instantly and loudly refuses, declaring she will do whatever she wants, which totally startles him. She winks, announcing her new personal mission is to beat some dignity and knowledge into him to make him a proper prince. Back in the present, the massive, fully constructed Ark Noah sits proudly at the pier. Nokel is staring intently at a piece of paper, with Ginya's watching over his shoulder in her full pirate gear. This whole gang is gathered, asking him what has got him so deep in thought, and it turns out he is being absolutely swarmed by villagers, all shouting their demands for the new nation's laws. Holding a fat stack of requests, he complains to Ginya's that this is way more work than the imperial studies he skipped. He decides to start with the easy stuff, looking at a request submitted by a mother and her young son. This kid's drawing asks for a demon cannon in his room to fight bad guys, a solid, well-reasoned proposal. Nokel just stares at the paper with a completely blank expression while Ginya's looks on. She then points out that with Noah getting this big, it is only a matter of time before the kingdom notices them. This thought of another military clash has him clutching his head, realizing they need a defense plan ASAP. But the winged ally steps up, suggesting its own powers might be the key to handling any external threats. This winged ally announces she's ready to test out her newly revived power, a glowing sigil hovering over her head. She calls it a stealth barrier, and as she activates it, the entire arc starts turning invisible. But the effect lasts for about 5 seconds before she is totally gassed, making Ginya's declare it completely useless. Nokel looks thoroughly unimpressed as the winged ally explains she needs more faith to cloak the whole island from enemies. Just then, one of the villagers interrupts, saying the rest of the crew has a few questions for her, and by a few, they mean a full-on mob demanding to know about taxes, trade routes, and who is on kitchen duty. This sudden onslaught of bureaucracy completely breaks Nokel, who just collapses and leaves a human-shaped dent in the wall. Ginya's and the winged ally just stare down at his defeated form as he mutters about not signing up for this. Lying on the deck, he realizes with dawning horror that he should have actually studied like Rose told him to. Hearing the name, the winged ally immediately asks the million-dollar question, who is Rose? From the floor, Nokel mumbles that she was the girl he saved from that garbage landslide. We learn that Rose Arcane is his cousin, a prodigy who became the Prime Minister's aide at just 11 years old. This girl was so charismatic that the public adored her, even calling her the Golden Rose. This little companion puts 2 and 2 together, realizing Rose is probably the real reason our boy got exiled. Nokel absolutely loses it at this suggestion, while the companion points out the obvious. The people liked her way more than him. He is in such deep denial he starts insisting he does not even have a cousin, a fantastic coping mechanism. But his thoughts drift back to that accident, wondering if Rose is okay after all this time. Suddenly, a girl in a very familiar-looking, high-ranking naval uniform appears before them. She asks Nokel if he really does not recognize her, and he just looks completely baffled. Meanwhile, in a tavern somewhere, pirates gossip about what happened after Nokel's exile, with Ginya's listening in from the bar. Back at the capital, a court official looks completely shocked while reporting some bad news about Rose. This scene shifts to Arcane Castle, where it looks like a major political crisis is brewing. Someone slams their fist down, completely shattering a stack of documents in a fit of rage. It is a minister named Shoured, and he is absolutely losing it, demanding to know what is going on. He is arguing with a masked naval officer, furious that some nobody she recommended is now ruining his reputation. This guy is having a full-on meltdown, clutching his face and whining about how this is all so unpleasant for him. A calm voice suddenly interrupts his tantrum, asking what all the shouting is about. And it is Nokel's brother, the second Prince Zeustra, looking thoroughly unimpressed by the display. Shoured immediately straightens up, sweating profusely now that royalty is here to witness his little scene. He bows deeply, trying to play it off like he was just getting worked up over something trivial. But Zeustra cuts right to it, asking if it is true that Rose has gone missing. Sheard quickly tells him not to worry, insisting that he has already got the situation under control. His brilliant plan was to contact the Lord of Last Vega Island, a shady masked dude named Goldor. Zeustra's eyes narrow, he knows exactly who that is, a notorious human trafficker. This logic is that Goldor's massive wealth and connections will make finding Rose easy. With a simple handle it, Zeustra turns and walks away, leaving Sheard to his own devices. This moment the prince is gone, Sheard gets this absolutely sinister grin on his face. He is not just trying to find Rose, he is counting on the trafficker to pinpoint her exact location. In fact, he is secretly hoping she gets bought and sold, which would be the most convenient outcome for him. A flashback reveals his grudge. He has always hated her for defending the garbage prince, Noel. In a flashback, the minister Sheard tells a horrified Rose he only rescued her because her crying was annoying him. She insists that no one in their right mind would ever agree to go save an official exile. With a sickening grin, Sheard suggests a notorious trafficker named Goldor might have picked up the prince. He basically sent her right to this guy's ship, knowing a monster like Goldor only sees people as product. And here is his secret hope, Rose getting chained up and sold, which would just be so convenient for him. Back in the present, the naval officer is losing her mind, realizing Rose vanished on Last Vega Island of all places. Ginya confirms that is the exact story she overheard back in that tavern. Her hand tightens into a fist, rage and determination boiling over. A quick flash of memories shows a younger, smiling Rose, reminding us who is at stake. Noel suddenly calls his entire crew to attention, looking incredibly serious. He admits that while they need to set up laws for Noah, he is about to ask for something completely selfish. Pointing to himself, he declares he is going to Last Vega immediately to rescue Rose, but his entire crew just grins back, totally on board with the rescue mission. Ginya gets fired up, declaring that the sea cats will never ever ignore human traffickers. Even the winged ally is pumped, giving her full support for the mission. Overwhelmed by their loyalty, Noel just quietly thanks everyone for having his back. This decision made, a gameplank slams into place, they are heading out immediately. Their massive ark, the Noah, sets its course for the notorious Last Vega Island. On the deck, Noel stares out at the waves, his expression set with grim determination. And a final flashback shows a young Rose fiercely defending him, telling everyone how he always protected her from the haters. With a determined vow, Noel declares it is his turn to save Rose, and she just has to wait for him. Their massive ark, the Noah, cuts through the waves, now fully committed to this high-stakes rescue mission. Ginya announces they have finally arrived at Last Vega, and Noel is all fired up to get ashore. But one of his crewmates immediately shuts that down, warning him it is not going to be that easy. Turns out Last Vega is an exclusive resort for scumbags, only people approved by the trafficker Goldor can land. On top of that, the entire harbor is crawling with armed merchant ships, making a frontal assault impossible. Noel is already at his limit, desperately trying to figure out a way onto the heavily guarded island. Even Ginya looks worried for a second, the sheer difficulty of their situation finally hitting her. Then she suddenly perks up, insisting they do have a plan, much to Noel's surprise. She cryptically tells him to follow her, leading him away to reveal her master stroke of genius. And their brilliant, top-tier infiltration strategy involves a single, solitary barrel floating in the ocean, which Noel is now inside, looking like he is questioning every single life choice that led him to this moment. He is just sweating profusely, radiating pure, unadulterated, this is so humiliating energy. Ginya proudly explains the plan to the winged ally he is disguised as literal garbage. This barrel will float past security with the rest of the trash, giving him a direct path to the island. Once ashore, he will blend in with the island's workers, who are constantly hauling similar-looking barrels. From there, he just needs to get himself loaded onto a cart and smuggled right into Goldor's casino. He has to admit, it is a pretty solid plan, but there is one very important question he needs answered. Our boy immediately asks why he has to be the one stuffed in a barrel all by himself. And Ginya claims she gets seasick and would totally fail, her body deflating into a pile of clothes to prove it, a flawless excuse. This winged ally promptly announces she is taking a nap, officially clocking out of the stealth mission. Another crewmate helpfully points out the barrel only fits one person anyway, much to Noel's despair. But Noel tries to psych himself up, insisting that being human cargo is better than doing nothing. He finally commits with a fist pump, shouting that he is all in for this incredibly dignified plan. So they just kick him off the deck, sending the prince in a barrel rolling and screaming toward the ocean. It hits the water with a massive splash, officially beginning the most humiliating infiltration in history. He even manages a little wave goodbye as the crew on the Noah wishes him well from the deck. Ginya looks worried, but the winged ally just offers a very confident he will probably be fine, and now he is just floating alone, perfectly disguised among the rest of the ocean trash. Inside the barrel, his thoughts drift back to Rose, his resolve hardening with every passing second. He just cannot wrap his head around the idea of someone so strong being captured by a lowlife like Goldor. Suddenly, he hears a noise from above, his expression turning grim as he prepares for contact. Only it is just him, popping the lid to scout the island with a tiny spyglass. Through it, he spots his destination, a massive casino that is clearly the heart of Lastvega. On the streets, a wealthy patron is being welcomed, bragging that money can buy anything here. Welcome to Lastvega, a sprawling island resort built entirely on vice and human trafficking.